from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Friday, the 8th of August. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Dawn Neeson.
Now, we can reveal that a Labour group is under fire after it was promoted an Asylum hotel counter-protest. This comes as the government shared the first detention images of its new returns deal with France. And as almost 400 small boat migrants crossed the Channel since that deal was signed.
Now, the Home Secretary believes that there will be no real issues in returning those migrants to France, but the human rights lawyers might have something else to say.
And breaking news, the Prime Minister condemns Israel's war cabinet for approving plans to take control of Gaza City. This is what Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu had to say.
We want to liberate ourselves and liberate the people of Gaza from the awful terror of Hamas.
But now reports suggest Israel could cut UK security ties. This if the Prime Minister formally recognises a Palestinian state. Britain relies on Israeli intelligence to spot and stop terror attacks on this country. Could a severance of ties with Israel put it at risk of Islamist terror?
And Homelessness Minister resigns. Yes, Rishnara Ali is branded a hypocrite after the MP evicted her tenants only to pump up the rent and relist the property weeks later. Liberal Democrat Deputy Leader Daisy Cooper spoke to GB News earlier.
The fact of the matter is she has acted within the law, but as a minister she was trying to change the law and she hasn't acted in the spirit of the new law that she wanted to introduce. So I think she's right to resign.
Elsewhere, a new bombshell poll has revealed that 87% of Brits are worried about personal information being hacked due to new online age verification mandates. Would you trust giving away your ID, bank details, or even a scan of your face to access the full internet?
And shocking scenes as a train ploughed into a van stuck on a level crossing in Poland, with its driver somehow escaping unharmed. What would you do in this situation? Stay tuned to find out the incredible rest of this footage.
Elsewhere, it's roadworks rage. Yes, the market town of Ashbourne in Derbyshire is facing a summer of traffic cones, red lights and angry local businesses.
Well, the council say that the works here will improve the life for pedestrians and the community, but businesses we've spoken to this morning have said that they're struggling, with one saying their business on a Saturday is down 50%. We'll be speaking to a butcher's and getting their view this hour.
And we're not going to give you too much information about this, but a video has gone viral and we'll be talking about it a lot more later on and revealing some shocking details.
Well, much to cover today.
Yes.
Indeed, we may well be getting some live footage of JD Vance, the Vice President of the United States, who has chosen Old Blighty to spend the weekend.
Yes.
Which is nice of him. He's an Anglophile, of course.
Very much an Anglophile, and like many Americans, he loves the Cotswolds. Very, very quintessential British villages, the honey-coloured stone, the country lanes. But before he goes to that, he's seeing David Lammy in Kent. Which, I mean, they get on really, really well, evidently.
It's actually
I mean, you would
surprising.
think that maybe not, but no, but they've got a lot in common.
They do have a lot in common in terms of their background, in terms of their faith, but also, I mean, David Lammy spent some time in the United States.
Yes.
He was at Harvard. He sort of is a big, what's the term for an American lover of American culture? Yankophile?
I'm not sure that's quite the word you're looking for, but we know what you mean. I think that's got a completely different meaning on that online site you use a lot. But
Oh,
because you can join in this conversation.
You can tell it's a Friday, can't you?
Yeah, it is a Friday, and we do have bananas coming up. But you can join in. We've got light and shade today because there's a weekend vibe. Come on. So join in our conversation. It's very simple to get involved in the show today. gbnews.com/yours say. But before we do that, let's get the news headlines.
Good afternoon, it's 4 minutes past 12. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has warned that the Israeli government's plan to take over Gaza City will only bring more bloodshed, labelling the plan wrong and urging the Israeli government to reconsider. Benjamin Netanyahu met with his security cabinet last night and received approval for a military takeover of Gaza City and a phased reoccupation plan, saying it's the only way to remove Hamas and liberate the people of Gaza. The UN has warned of catastrophic consequences. The Security Cabinet also adopted 5 principles for ending the entire war, including disarming Hamas, the return of all hostages, and the demilitarisation of Gaza. It comes as Prime Minister Netanyahu said Israel intends to take control of the whole of Gaza. Elsewhere today, the Energy Minister has said that Rushanara Ali has not broken the law or any rules after she resigned over accusations of hiking rent on her own tenants. Rushanara Ali stepped down following claims she raised rent by hundreds of pounds just weeks after ending her previous tenant's contract. In her resignation letter, Miss Ali insisted she followed all legal requirements, but admitted staying on would be a distraction from the government's work. Sir Keir Starmer thanked her and said her legacy would leave a lasting impact. Conservative Party Chairman Kevin Hollinrake said her position was untenable.
I think actually what Rushanara Ali did was quite extreme, actually, and I've been in the property business a long time, and to basically end a tenancy and then put the rent up by 20% for the next tenant is quite extreme, and most landlords don't do that. And particularly when you're advocating a change yourself and moralising about that change, your position is just not tenable.
President Trump has said that he is open to meeting with Russian leader Vladimir Putin without Volodymyr Zelensky. That's as the US president's ceasefire deadline for Russia is set to expire today. Yesterday, a White House source said that Putin must meet with Zelensky for the meeting between President Trump and Putin to occur. However, when asked last night if that would be necessary, the US president said that it wasn't, abandoning a previous pledge for 3-way peace talks. The Kremlin has said that the meeting between the two leaders could happen within days, adding that a location has been agreed. Just days ago, President Trump declared Russia an extraordinary threat to the US, where he rolled out the first wave of sanctions against Putin after his refusal to stop the war in Ukraine. David Lammy is set to meet US Vice President JD Vance today amid those ongoing conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine. The Foreign Secretary is expected to host Mr Vance at Chevening, his official country retreat in Kent, as the Vice President begins a summer holiday with his family in the UK. They'll discuss UK-US relations in a bilateral meeting before being joined by their families. The US and UK have found themselves at odds on Gaza, with Sir Keir Starmer's pledge to recognise a Palestinian state if Israel does not agree to a ceasefire, drawing criticism from Washington. A 4-year-old boy has died after being hit by a bus outside a hospital in Kent. Police were called to the collision outside the Queen Elizabeth Queen Mother Hospital in Margate just after 4 o'clock yesterday. The boy was hit by a white single-decker bus which was travelling near the entrance to the A&E department, Kent Police said. He was taken back inside the hospital where he was pronounced dead soon after. Investigators from Kent Police's Serious Collision Investigations Unit are urging anyone with relevant information to come forward. A new guidance set to be published later this month will advise that trans women are banned from single-sex spaces. The Equality and Human Rights Commission is set to advise schools, hospitals, leisure centres and cinemas to ban trans women from using single-sex spaces, including lavatories and changing rooms. Guidance from the EHRC will apply to any organisation that provides services to the public, extending to government departments, the NHS and prisons. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More from me in half an hour.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
It's quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3446 and €1.1546. The price of gold is £2,524.75 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,104 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 9 minutes past midday. Now, a local Labour group is under fire after promoting a counter-protest in Aldershot in favour of housing asylum seekers in local hotels.
Yes, the Farnham and Bordham Labour group has since deleted the post which called on activists to counter anti-migrant marches taking place outside hotels.
Well, this comes as the government published its first pictures of its new returns deal with France. Those initial detentions ahead, we're told, of these people being returned, or at least some of them.
Wow.
Well, we're joined with our Home and Security editor, Mark White. Mark, the government is really having a PR blitz on this front.
Yeah, there's no doubt they want to get the messaging out there. Whatever their reason, it's good that there is this transparency, that we get to see part of the operation that we never normally do. So we can take a look at the videos. The first one is at the Border Force Processing Centre in Dover, the Western Jetfoil. You can see there the migrants coming up the gangway. They've just come off a Border Force vessel and they're heading towards the Marquees and the Porta Cabins there. This is part of the initial assessment. It's triaging them, basically, medical assessment, make sure that they're fit to go on to the next part of the processing operation, which is down the road at Manston, near Manston Airport. We can show you that video there. This is a bigger facility here, and they're normally in Manston for 48 hours, where they undergo biometrics tests, fingerprints, DNA testing, and various other sort of biometrics testing and questioning to try to find out who they are, because these migrants are told by the people smugglers to throw away their identifying documents, and they do that because they want to invent a new backstory that maybe stands them, they believe, in better stead in terms of getting a positive asylum outcome. Now, the footage you're looking at here is an asylum or immigration removal and detention centre. We believe it's Harmondsworth, near Heathrow Airport. And the reason is that a number of that cohort we were just looking at in the first two videos are now have now been sent there. So they're not going off to the four-star hotels, as is normally the process. They're going to the immigration detention and removal centres as part of the deal to return them to France. It is only going to be a very modest number initially. The government admits that, although they're being quite coy about exactly what the number is, because they don't want to find out what the situation is, you know, a few weeks down the road telling us maybe they're removing 50 when actually they only ever manage to remove half a dozen. What you're looking at there are images from last night. This is the message back from the people smugglers. This is a lifeboat just fighting through the waves there, and you'll see a Border Force vessel struggling to make headway as well. They have just come from picking up a migrant boat that was put out into the channel late yesterday in horrific weather conditions. 83 people were on board that flimsy inflatable raft. A defiant message from the people smugglers that for them, whatever Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer might hatch up in terms of a returns deal, for them it's business as usual. Almost 400 migrants have crossed since this deal between France and the UK was operationalised.
Mark, for me, just very briefly, quickly, this proves nothing. I've seen footage of people shuffling in and out of buildings, but I'm still seeing boats crossing the water, and that is the bottom line. It's not working.
Yes, and you'll judge it, obviously not necessarily in a day or two after, but in the weeks or months to come. Will there be any reduction in those coming across? Will there be a deterrent factor? Well, I don't think the people smugglers will be too worried. In fact, they're, even at this early stage, telling their potential customers, look, in the very unlikely event that you might be returned to France, don't worry, we will give you free passage on your next migrant boat out to the UK.
Extraordinary. Well, Mark White, thanks so much for bringing us those videos and indeed that information. Let's continue this conversation now with the former Immigration Minister, Kevin Foster. Kevin, thanks for being with us. Is it not too early to say whether or not this will work? It's only been going for, what, 36 hours? Surely the government needs a bit of time before we can make that assessment.
Yeah, to be fair, Tom, the key moment will come once people actually are returned to France. You know, does that start reducing the numbers? But it's worth saying that the announcement of the Rwanda deal did see numbers start to fall after that became a prospect for migrants. And we've seen, since it's no longer been a prospect over the last year, we've seen record numbers and we've seen the numbers of arrivals escalate. So to be fair to the government, the acid test will come when they've returned people. There's footage of people being returned to France, and then what happens to them afterwards? Because, as you just touched on, if they end up having another trip back, it's not going to be much of a deterrent. And also, if you look at the actual deal, it only applies to small boat arrivals. What if someone who's been removed back to France then arrives back in the UK on the back of a lorry? What do we do then? I think that's where some of this is. What then happens to someone who's been returned to France?
Instantly this scheme was announced, I mean, journalists were picking holes in it, which is literally what our job is, obviously. Ordinary people were picking holes in it, and the gangs themselves were picking holes in it and instantly saying, well, we're just, you know, take you back over there. It's not a problem, because the devil is always in the detail, and the detail of this just doesn't seem to be finalised. The migrants get sent back to France. What happens to them? They seem free to have another go.
Yes, Dawn, you can go through the agreement and find a number of exemptions. For example, no children, people who've still got an outstanding human rights claim. And you could have added to your list there human rights lawyers and immigration lawyers who'll be busy looking for things that they can throw, no matter how absurd, to try and stop people being removed. So there are a number of issues. This isn't just a simple someone arrives, you decide you don't want them and you send them back to France. And also there are some exemptions like, you know, people who might be a danger to France. So it's not going to be very reassuring to anyone listening to this to hear that if we actually identify in this biometric check someone quite dangerous who's arrived from France, this deal doesn't cover returning them back to France. We end up stuck with them. So there's a lot of things in this deal. Yes, it could have an impact, and I'll give the government that. It is better than nothing, but it is not in itself going to be the resolution to this problem.
No, it is a fascinating point, isn't it? Anyone that France thinks is frankly too dangerous, they're the ones we keep. And all the nice ones, and I'm sure there are lots of nice people who come across in these boats. Of course there are. Law-abiding people. They're the ones that France gets back. We get all the nasty ones.
They're just a danger to France. They're not a danger to us, though, Tom. That's fine. Yeah. Kevin, thank you very much. That's former Immigration Minister Kevin Foster. Thank you. OK, now, in what could signal a major escalation in the Israel-Gaza war, Israel's new war cabinet has approved plans to occupy Gaza City as part of a wider plan to take control of the Gaza Strip.
Well, the decision has divided both Israelis and Israel's allies, with Sir Keir Starmer condemning the decision as wrong and saying it will only lead to more bloodshed.
However, reports have emerged that Israel could stop defence and security cooperation, this is a key point here, with the UK if the Prime Minister presses ahead with plans to recognise Palestine. A move that would have a serious national security implication, as Israel has provided crucial intelligence to Britain's spy agencies about terror threats in the UK.
Well, let's get the thoughts now of the chairman of the Defence Select Committee, the former chairman of the Defence Select Committee, I should say, of course, Tobias Ellwood. Tobias, thanks for being with us. Let's just start on this point here before we get on to the military operations. How reliant are we on Israeli intelligence? If that is cut off, will we be more at risk from Islamist terror here at home?
An important point. We do share intelligence. We should stress that Israel is a close friend of ours, but that should not prevent us from speaking out, perhaps behind the scenes more so, in saying if we see errors being made in the execution of a mission. And that comes to the detail. How does the translation of battlefield successes lead to a strategy as to where Israel and Gaza goes in the longer term. And that's been brought up for question. What Israel has done, or Netanyahu specifically, in moving into Gaza and now threatening to take over the entire strip, could actually break down the possibility of ever securing a two-state solution. So talk of recognition of Palestine, it is one of those cards you can only ever play once. That's very, very clear indeed, has been brought to the fore simply as a recognition, as a reminder to say, let's not lose sight of that. I preferred what Canada did in this sense, which was to stress that a two-state solution can only be considered if the Palestinians themselves recognize that Hamas can have no part in it. I'm afraid when Britain came out with this, when the Prime Minister pushed this forward, it was all on onus for Israel to meet conditions. The actual pressure should be on the Palestinians. Every time I see a Palestinian flag in London, I want to go up to the individual and say, fine, I hear what you're trying to say, but where is your little statement that distances you from Hamas, from what caused this latest escalation in the last couple of years? Are you willing to recognize, want to push Palestine in its recognition, but also say that Hamas can have no part of it? And we don't hear that enough.
Tobias, sure, you're obviously quite right there. I mean, but the recent polling does seem to prove that Hamas are more popular than ever in Gaza.
So in Gaza, it's a different matter, and you see this on the battlefield. Even the most unpopular, most extremist operations, particularly in the Middle East, where it's easy to indoctrinate people and radicalize them as well. When there's no avenue, no vision as to where the country, where the state, where the land may go, people rally around whatever force there is that's daring to stand up to the adversary. And this goes back to the folly, if I can say this, of the Israeli military tactics, because they are tactics without a strategy. If you alienate the very people that get caught up in the battles, then they themselves, if you've lost your families and so forth, if you can't find food, you then actually feel a sympathy, affiliation to the cause that's fighting them, even though you may disagree with those politics, because nobody else is willing to battle for you. You see the hardship, the famine that's breaking out. This isn't winning over hearts and minds in Gaza. Israel controls much of the strip already. I said this on your program previously. Today, we could begin sectioning parts of it in the south away from the urban areas to rebuild, to use the money from the Gulf nations that are willing to support, to bring in a technocratic governance structures separated from Hamas. That could start immediately. It could start today. It could give a sense of purpose and hope to the ordinary Palestinians, and therefore to say, yes, I can see where we'd like to go. This isn't with Hamas. Let's pursue that direction. But there's no talk of any of this whatsoever. There's simply talk of more war.
No, it's a desperate situation. Well, Tobias Elwood, thanks indeed for joining us here on Good Afternoon Britain. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Tobias. It's just a horrible situation, especially seeing as both states involved are going to refuse forever to recognise the other one. Yeah. Any case, we have got some fun and good news for you as well, because it is our great competition and it's your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for a year and get a bonus £5,000 in your bank. It's the latest Great British Giveaway. And guess what? Even if you haven't got a mortgage or rent to pay, you can still enter and win £15,000. Here's all the details you need.
This is your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for an entire year in the latest Great British Giveaway. That's right, we'll give you a cash lump sum that will cover 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, up to an incredible £20,000. Plus, we'll add £5,000 on top of that for you to treat yourself. And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you, we'll give you £15,000 in cash instead. You have to hurry though, as lines will close on the 29th of August. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9 T. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Oh, good luck indeed. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
It would
be a
be
lovely
nice.
summer.
God, I would really like it to be
Tax-free as well, that money. Yeah.
Well, especially as everyone's gone a bit in a tiz about the interest rates.
Oh, God, yeah. We've got a story on that, haven't we?
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming on today's programme. Shocking scenes as a train ploughed into a van which was stuck on a level crossing in Poland. We say stuck on a level crossing. The man was an idiot for driving like this.
Well, he was.
Absolute fool. But somehow he escaped unharmed.
Yes. Stay tuned to watch the rest of this incredible footage.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, after the break, though, Homelessness Minister has resigned, of course, Rushnara Ali. She's been branded a hypocrite after the MP evicted her tenants, only then to pump up the rent and relist the property weeks later.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Oh, yes, I've got a bit of an update on this. So, you know, Steve Jobs' daughter is getting married this weekend. We talked about it earlier on in the week.
Yes,
Eve Jobs.
they're hiring the entire Cotswolds.
Yeah, we've got more details now.
Oh.
They're taking over the village of Great Chew. And apparently the budget is said to be $5 million. Could be a lot more, though.
$5 million?
Yeah,
because the papers were saying 50 million the other day.
$5 million could be higher. But the high-end guest list includes Kamala Harris, Bono, the Kardashians and Princess Beatrice. Rumours as well that David Cameron's been invited.
Oh. But they can't know all these people.
They've invited 500 people. So it's a big wedding.
It's just like...
Apparently the village is in lockdown.
No, it will be.
Yeah, and they're going to Estelle Manor afterwards, which is a big, like, Jacobean manor house in the Cotswolds. And they've got sniffer dogs out already.
Wow.
It's incredible.
Of all those people, I bet they only know Bono.
But didn't you think the
Everybody
same
knows Bono, don't they? Well, no, but at least he was involved with Apple. He must have known Steve Jobs.
Was he involved with Apple?
Yeah, because they had all the... Do you remember they had the U2 exclusive iPods and
Oh,
things when
of
they
course.
first
Yeah.
launched. So he must have known... So he probably knew her as a kid.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to give away Apple products.
Probably.
Oh, yeah. You know, the
It's the goodie bag. You'll get a goodie bag.
At the end, yeah, like an iPad or
So
a...
you've got a goodie bag at your wedding.
Or a MacBook. I know, but you had the free-flowing rosé, which you don't drink.
I don't drink.
Anyway. Did you not try the non-alcoholic version?
Of rosé?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was one.
I covered all fronts.
I didn't know there was
Oh,
one.
well, you missed out.
I had some non-alcoholic beers.
Well, good. I did provide.
GB News, the People's Channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very, very easy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 27 minutes past midday. Now, Rushnara Ali has resigned as Homelessness Minister after claims she evicted her tenants before hiking up rent by hundreds of pounds.
The Conservatives have naturally accused her of hypocrisy, and there were widespread calls for her to step down from homelessness charities and opposition politicians.
Well, in her resignation letter, Ali insisted she followed all legal requirements, but admitted staying on would be a distraction for the government and from the government's work.
We're now joined in the studio by a former editor of the Labour list, Peter Edwards. Now, Peter, this is the front page of the Daily Mail today, as it would be because she's a Labour minister. Minister for hypocrisy is forced to quit. Should she have quit? Did she do anything wrong?
Well, the Red Tops love a controversy and they love a Labour resignation. We've got one. But the core allegation is that she evicted her tenants to charge new tenants more at personal gain. And that is not proven. Is not proven. And that's why I'm sad that she's gotten, as well as the fact she was a great constituency MP.
Why is it not proven?
Because from the briefing that's gone out, it appears the tenants got to the end of their tenancy, were just expired in the normal way. Then the property was listed on the market and they had a chance to seek to stay. And it appears, we don't have all the facts, they chose to go elsewhere. So she did not kick them out and she did not bring the tenancy to an end early. That's a crucial distinction.
But Peter, here's the difference. I would completely agree with you in a world where the Labour Party weren't bringing forward what they call the Renters' Rights Bill. Because in that bill, there will not be any such thing as the end of a tenancy. All tenancies will become rolling. The fixed-term element of tenancies will end, and the campaigners for this, in my view, nonsense piece of legislation have said that if you come to the end of a tenancy and are asked to leave, that is an eviction. I don't call that an eviction. I don't think any normal person on the face of this world thinks that this is an eviction. But the campaigners, the renters' rights campaigners, think that it is. And unfortunately for this minister, she is shepherding through Parliament a bill that would make what she did illegal.
And I think that's why politically it became untenable, even though it's not just, I think she acted properly, but she also acted within the rules. So that's why I would very strongly defend her. But let's look at the big picture. We're in a culture where, perhaps unfairly, landlords are seen as bad. But actually, Britain needs a prosperous rental market because people are buying their homes later. In my case, I left home at 18 or 19 and rented till the age of about 32 or 33. The age at which you buy your first home is getting later and later for economic reasons. So we need a prosperous and fair rental market. Therefore, we need landlords. But there's a perception, particularly in politics, that landlords are wicked. And I think, actually, you need landlords as part of supply and demand.
That's a very reasonable case. It just doesn't stack up. Why then she was in favour of this particular new piece of legislation that is widely perceived as anti-landlord, that would make the very normal process of matching your rent with where the market is at, would make that, in many cases, illegal. So it's the hypocrisy argument here, not the act of what she did in and of itself. It's the fact that she is literally shepherding legislation through that would have made what she did illegal.
Yeah, I don't think that amounts to hypocrisy, and I've got personal experience. You know, I was a constituent in Bethnal Green and Bow for many years, for about 10 years. She was a good constituency MP. She turned up at meetings. She helped residents like me. So I think she was fantastic. I think politically it did become untenable. But the key thing is she acted within the rules at the time. And by the way, this bill, which is going through Parliament, much like, you know, the meat going in a sausage machine, is going to come out looking different. You know, on this channel particularly, there's a lot of coverage of Labour changing their mind or one or two things. Yeah. The bill will go through, but it will be amended, because all bills are.
They're not going to get rid of the abolition of the fixed-term tenancy. That's one of the core elements of the bill. And that would mean that getting people out of a house that you are renting out would be illegal, save for very specific circumstances.
Yeah, and there's a lot of politics attached to it, and I think there's two things in general the government society wants to avoid. One is landlords jacking up the price unfairly, and secondly, apart from obviously safety, and the other one is landlords selling a property kind of without the tenants knowing, or the tenants being shoved out at short notice because the landlord can make a capital gain. So that's why governments are trying to bear down on them, and the tax regime under Labour and the Tories has got a bit tougher as well, because it's seen as almost an invisible tax, whereas we feel employee national insurance and income tax on our monthly salary packet.
Now, Rishanara is, unfortunately, the fourth Labour minister to step down. In a year, we had Louise Haigh, Transport Minister, Tulip Siddiqui, Anti-Corruption Minister, ironically, and Junior Health Minister Andrew Gwynn. In a year, that looks like an awfully bad record for Labour.
People resign. It happens under every government, and I think I first started looking at the news.
Not four in a year like this, Peter. Come on, even you can't defend that one.
I first started looking at the news in the John Major era, when they were dropping like flyers, often over matters of money and sexual propriety. Tulip Siddiq is a different case because she's involved in a legal case in Bangladesh, and that's still going on. So again, we don't have all the facts. So I think it's always good to reserve judgment. Rushnara Ali, I don't think has done anything.
She resigned. She obviously thought there was something wrong.
Yeah, and often this is, there's that classic phrase, it's a bit House of Cards about you resign to avoid becoming a distraction.
Yeah.
I think that's valid in this case.
Do you think it was actually her decision, or do you think she was forced out by number 10?
No, I think she's astute, and it was a distraction because although I'm certain she acted within the rules and lawfully, the premise of your question was fair, which was it is a big distraction. Whereas if she'd been the minister for something else like food standards, it wouldn't have touched her to say minister pack. So she probably had to go, but she was a good minister. She behaved fairly, and she was a good local MP, and I hope she continues to be so.
OK, Peter, thank you very much for joining us. That's Peter Edwards, former editor of the Labour list there. Well, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Plenty more to come on today's programme, including this strange story. Has there been a UFO sighting in Worcestershire?
That's a frisbee, by the way.
Yeah, that's not the UFO. There it is. There it goes. This viral clip is circling online. Let you be the judge of whatever this curious thing is.
Exactly. But after the break, a new bombshell poll has revealed that 87% are worried about personal information being hacked due to new age verification mandates online. Would you trust giving away your ID, bank details and a scan of your face to access the internet? All of that and much more after your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. The headlines at 12:35. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has warned that the Israeli government's plan to take over Gaza City will only bring more bloodshed, labelling the plan wrong and urging the Israeli government to reconsider. The Energy Minister has said today that Rushanara Ali has not broken the law or any rules after she resigned over accusations of hiking rent on her own tenants. Rushanara Ali stepped down following claims she raised rent by hundreds of pounds just weeks after ending her previous tenant's contract. The government plans to introduce restriction zones for serious sexual and violent criminals, forcing them to stay in specific areas. Measures aimed at allow survivors to go about their daily lives without fear of seeing their offender. President Trump has said he's open to meeting Russian leader Vladimir Putin without Volodymyr Zelensky. That's as the US president's ceasefire deadline for Russia is set to expire today. A new guidance set to be published later this month will advise that trans women are banned from single-sex spaces. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a dry and bright day for most of us. There will be a lot of cloud around and there'll be some showery rain in the far north, mostly to the north of the central belt of Scotland because of these fronts toppling in over an area of high pressure which is building from the south. That's going to bring increasingly summery weather over the next few days and increasingly high temperatures by early next week, especially across the south and the east of the UK. But for the time being, it's pleasant enough out there. Yes, a lot of cloud around, but some breaks in the clouds, some decent sunny spells coming through. It's breezier for northern areas, and certainly we've got strong winds in the far north and northwest with outbreaks of rain. That's going to make it feel cool, but warm enough in the sunshine elsewhere. Then heading into the evening, any cloud in the south tends to fade away, but we keep the cloud in the north with further showers across much of Scotland. Again, that strong breeze across the north and northwest of Scotland, and it's going to be fairly gusty for Northern Ireland as well as Northern England, but clear spells emerging. And for the southern half of the UK, lighter winds, still warm as we head into Friday evening. But it does cool off fairly quickly. It's going to be a relatively fresh night across southern parts under clear skies and with light winds. Brisk breezes towards the north with outbreaks of persistent and at times heavy rain pushing into the north and northwest of Scotland, then later on into Northern Ireland. and temperatures dipping to the single figures in some sheltered spots. Otherwise, we're talking about 12 to 15 Celsius by dawn on Saturday. Plenty of sunshine for England and Wales, but for Scotland and Northern Ireland, we do have this band of rain moving through. That's going to peter out as it pushes into northern England and North Wales, mainly an area of cloud and drizzle by this stage. Blustery showers into the north of Scotland, bright skies to the south, plenty of sunshine, highs into the mid-20s. It's going to turn even hotter by Monday and Tuesday.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Currently, the M25 clockwise between Junction 13 and Junction 14 in Surrey has a road traffic incident, leading to one-lane closure. In Nottinghamshire, the A1 northbound between the A638 and the junction with the A614 is experiencing congestion with 10-minute delays. On the trains, East Midlands Railway reports major disruption between Bedford and London St Pancras International. Additionally, Grand Central advises of significant delays between Peterborough, Cambridge and London King's Cross. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. Some breaking news to bring you. A 15-year-old boy has been found guilty at Sheffield Crown Court of murdering fellow pupil Harvey Wilgoose at a school in the city in February.
The 15-year-old died after being stabbed by the fellow pupil at their school in February. The defendant had previously admitted a charge of manslaughter.
But just to repeat now, that 15-year-old defendant, that boy, he's been found guilty of murder.
OK, now we're moving on. With the Online Safety Act in full effect, many are concerned about the growing use of VPNs.
Yeah, that's virtual private networks for the uninitiated. Now, new polling from More in Common shows that young people are the most likely to have a VPN installed, avoiding all of these new restrictions online, including a third of those aged 18 to 24. Of course, those below the age of 18, it might be higher, but they haven't been polled. The whole point of the Online Safety Act is to keep children safe online. But if young people are able to bypass this stuff, has it failed at the first hurdle?
Meanwhile, 74% of the public expressed some concern about young people's ability to bypass all the age checks because they are much cleverer than people my generation, to be honest with you.
And then we get on to the part where a lot of people are very concerned over their own risks, having to put forward their own information to access stuff online, not just adult content online, but content like parliamentary speeches.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rape gang transcripts.
Yeah.
Stuff that has been restricted.
Stuff that you should be able to see as part of the democracy we live in, but is now restricted. I just find it frightening.
It's interesting to look at where the public sit on this. Let's speak to the Research and Communications Associate at More in Common, Lewis O'Gearan. Lewis, thanks for being with us. What did you find?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So it's a really interesting issue because it's one where top-line support for the policy in principle actually really falls apart when you look closer at what the Act might mean in practice. So we found that the public are actually 3 times more likely to support than oppose the Online Safety Act. That is the principle of age verification for potentially harmful content. But there are also widespread concerns about, as you mentioned, young people being able to bypass the legislation using VPNs, rendering it pretty much useless. And nearly 9 in 10 are worried about being hacked when they upload personal information. Linked to that, I think, is just a real lack of trust in social media companies and third parties to carry out this verification. We found that only 12% of the public say that they actually trust social media companies to safely, privately and accurately verify people's ages.
Well, we have seen massive data breaches in recent weeks, actually. On the very day that the Online Safety Act came into force in America, a very, very popular app called T, which was an app for women to talk about their previous boyfriends on. But in order to it only be women, they had an age verification and a gender verification. People sent in selfies with themselves and their ID cards. All of that got leaked online. Tens of thousands of women's sensitive ID information leaked because they had done the age verification stuff. I mean, clearly, you're saying 9 out of 10 people are concerned that that will happen now, well, for millions of people using the internet in Britain.
Yeah, I think it's a really key concern. It's worth saying, though, that actually public opinion on issues like this, often the public are more authoritarian than we expect. We asked people about this kind of trade-off, particularly between online privacy and freedom of expression versus child safety, and said, is it worth the risk that some content might be restricted, for example, if it means that children are protected from harmful content online? And 7 in 10 said that it was worth the risk. I think, as you said, though, it's the risk that really high-profile cases of data breaches or high-profile cases of censorship, or what people perceive as censorship, like parliamentary speeches or footage from Gaza and Ukraine being restricted, that really erodes trust in the legislation, which is already quite low, as people really don't trust social media companies and third parties. So while the public are actually with the government on this, on the top line, there is a real risk that that support erodes.
Louis, have you found that as the Act has been enforced, more and more people are saying, I really didn't think it would be acting in this way. I didn't think I'd have to do this. For example, you know, everybody I know that has a season ticket at a football club has had to now verify themselves all over again, even though the club holds that information, by uploading facial images of themselves. Lots of people are very, very wary, as Tom's alluded to, given there's so many data breaches going on in any case.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a really important point. The trust in social media companies is already at an all-time low. I think it's too early to say whether these specific examples are beginning to cut through. But certainly, as you said, as people start experiencing this themselves, as they're starting to see more and more content being restricted to them, it's certainly possible that they could, that this really starts to be quite damaging.
Yeah. It's just astonishing how little was known about this bill by the general public before it became law and changed the way that we all interact.
Yeah, no, I think we were wary, but now we're knowing exactly how it is operating for simple things like renewing your football season ticket. It's just like, hold on a minute, I've been going for so many years, and now you want to see what I look like, and I've got to upload my passport. It just doesn't feel right. Very wrong. Louis, thank you very much for joining us. That's Louis Aguirre, there, associate at More in Common.
No, we should say that the government has something to say on this. They say, and I'm going to read this with a completely straight face, the government spokesman has previously said that free speech is a cornerstone of our democracy. The Online Safety Act protects it. Platforms have a duty to uphold freedom of expression, and the Act places no curbs whatsoever on what adults can say and see on the internet. However, we make no apologies for flagging to platforms which content is contrary to their own terms of service and which can result in violent disorder on our streets.
I'm saying nothing. However, if you are in search of some holiday sun...
We have always been at war with Eurasia.
Yes, get your passports ready. Here is a forecast for some of those top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Looking ahead to tomorrow, and the weather across southern Europe is looking pretty dry for most places, albeit a bit of rain is pushing across Madeira. Meanwhile, for Spain, Portugal and even France, the heat is continuing to build, so temperatures for some could be getting into the high 30s, maybe even low 40s through the weekend. Meanwhile, across parts of Italy, Greece, even into Turkey, lots of dry and hot weather here, and that's how the outlook is looking as well, staying largely sunny.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello and welcome back to Good Afternoon Britain. It is at 12:50. Now, in the Derbyshire market town of Ashbourne, a £15 million redevelopment is putting a dampener on the summer tourism season.
Yeah, get this. Reports say that streets are blocked, machinery is causing noise pollution, and tourists are steering clear as a result.
To make matters even worse, it's not due to end until October.
Well, let's get down there. Right on the scene is our very own Jack Carson, who's made the journey to Ashbourne to find out if this really has made the town a ghost town this summer. Jack.
Well, that's what it's feeling like. You can see where the end of the high street here is blocked. It continues into the street over. You've got all this beautiful bunting, but businesses have told us today that some of the trade is down because people aren't coming in because they're worried, of course, about getting around with the roadworks, but also shops struggling because of the little maze, those who are affected, trying to actually people get into their shop. Now, Nigel from Nigel's Butchers, a beautiful shop here on the high street, joins us now. Nigel, what kind of impact have you seen from this work?
Quite a bit, really, because obviously the road's been closed, been works going on, which we all understood. You know, we've got to look on the bright side of things. The impact on the business, I would say, probably somewhere about 20–30% down. On saying that, we do a lot of tourist trade, so you wouldn't really just know how much of that you're missing out on. You know, you're appealing to the locals to keep coming and getting here and etc, but you're missing out on some tourist trade which you wouldn't know how much you was missing out on, really.
And I suppose that is a worry because they're going on into the year, later on into the year and into the winter as well. Does that worry you? What have the kind of council said to you as well around support and really, you know, keeping you informed about what's going on? Because like you say, you know, you're concerned about the trade that you have already lost.
Yeah, well, that's it. But it was always never going to be any compensation or whatever. Everybody knew that at the start. Everybody knew the implications of what was going to go on. Consultations with councils and everything. The biggest problem for me personally, how I see it, is that we all know it's got to happen, but the work seems to be in all different sort of places that's not give us any indication to when it's going to be finished. There is an envelope of time about Easter, Whitsuntide, around there, when historically we get a lot of visitors to the town and whatever. If we could have had probably St John Street open, or some more
also kind of staged kind of part to the development.
Yes, but so it wasn't all clamped down. We knew that it was going to be shut for a while, but if we could have just got a road open, particularly that one up there. It's not so much what's going on in town, it's the people unable to get into town, and once they're in town, back out of town, the queuing and the, you don't see what's going on, you just listen to the customers that you've appealed to help you.
Yeah.
I just feel it was a bit of a disappointment that they couldn't view it a bit different then. They've not got it quite right with the traffic around the periphery of the town to get people in.
All right, Nigel, thank you so much for giving us that view. Nigel's Butchers here, of course, still very much open for business, but as you heard from Nigel there, as we've heard from other businesses as well, there are noticing, that drop in trade because of these works. The council say they knew there was going to be disruption, and they're working with businesses and residents to try and keep these high streets open.
OK, well, Jack Carson, thanks for braving the ghost town for us. Now, if you've run into roadworks, do get in touch. gbnews.com/yoursay is the way to get in touch.
Yes. Good. Well, here's the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a dry and bright day for most of us. There will be a lot of cloud around and there'll be some showery rain in the far north, mostly to the north of the central belt of Scotland because of these fronts toppling in over an area of high pressure which is building from the south. That's going to bring increasingly summery weather over the next few days and increasingly high temperatures by early next week, especially across the south and the east of the UK. But for the time being, it's pleasant enough out there. Yes, a lot of cloud around, but some breaks in the clouds, some decent sunny spells coming through. It's breezier for northern areas, and certainly we've got strong winds in the far north and northwest with outbreaks of rain. That's going to make it feel cool, but warm enough in the sunshine elsewhere. Then heading into the evening, any cloud in the south tends to fade away, but we keep the cloud in the north with further showers across much of Scotland. Again, that strong breeze across the north and northwest of Scotland, and it's going to be fairly gusty for Northern Ireland as well as Northern England, but clear spells emerging. And for the southern half of the UK, lighter winds, still warm as we head into Friday evening. But it does cool off fairly quickly. It's going to be a relatively fresh night across southern parts under clear skies and with light winds. Brisk breezes towards the north with outbreaks of persistent and at times heavy rain pushing into the north and northwest of Scotland, then later on into Northern Ireland. And temperatures dipping to the single figures in some sheltered spots. Otherwise, we're talking about 12 to 15 Celsius by dawn on Saturday. Plenty of sunshine for England and Wales, but for Scotland and Northern Ireland, we do have this band of rain moving through. That's going to peter out as it pushes into Northern England and North Wales, mainly an area of cloud and drizzle by this stage. Blustery showers into the north of Scotland. Bright skies to the south, plenty of sunshine, highs into the mid-20s. It's going to turn even hotter by Monday and Tuesday.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for an entire year. We'll give you a cash lump sum that will cover 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, up to an incredible £20,000. Plus, we'll add £5,000 on top of that for you to treat yourself. You have to hurry though, as lines will close on the 29th of August. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Rafe, I'm assuming the notion of dropping Winnie to replace him with a tranny fills you full of repulsion.
Yes, I personally, as a Churchill historian, would love Churchill to be on the notes permanently. But yes, this is just part of this continuing war on our history that we often discuss on this channel. It's a long war, and it's just basically another attempt to gradually, or not so gradually actually, erase or rewrite our history. And the imagery on banknotes, on our passports, and the coins and stamps and all those sorts of things, they've traditionally always served to inspire pride in the nation. And those are really powerful symbols of our sovereignty and our identity. And it speaks a lot to, of course, to the changing fads and this desire we now see by our institutions, including the Bank of England, to create a new British identity, which is completely severed from the past.
I wonder, Rafe, we've had this conversation before. I wonder if a lot of this now is starting to feel a bit deliberate. Like, they know that Winston Churchill is worshipped and adored as one of the greatest ever Brits. They know we cherish the Union flag. They know we cherish our national anthems. Is that specifically why you think they're targeted?
That's precisely why it's being targeted. It's just that's what this is all about. The Bank of England is just part of this long march through the institution. The Bank of England, remember, in its new Bank of England Museum, well, it has a permanent exhibition on slavery. And we need to understand that the elites who control our institutions bear no comparison to the generations that occupied those institutions. They're cuckoos in the nest. They're embarrassed by Britain's history and its historical figures. And what these people used to understand love of nation, and they've replaced that with national self-loathing.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Friday, the 8th of August. Here's Tom Harwood and I'm Dawn Neeson.
Now, we can reveal that a Labour group is under fire after it promoted an Asylum hotel counter-protest. Well, this comes as the government shared its first images of its returns deal with France. There's almost 400 small boat migrants who've crossed the Channel since the deal was signed.
And breaking news, the Prime Minister condemns Israel's war cabinet for approving plans to take control of Gaza City.
But now reports suggest that Israel could cut UK security ties if Keir Starmer formally recognises that Palestinian state. Britain relies on Israeli intelligence to spot and stop terror attacks in this country. Could a severance of ties put us at risk of Islamist terror?
And a 15-year-old boy has been found guilty at Sheffield Crown Court of murdering fellow pupil Harvey Wilgoose at a school in the city in February.
Amidst it all, a homelessness minister resigns. Yes, Rushnera Ali is branded a hypocrite after the MP evicted her tenants, only then to pump up the rent and relist the property weeks later. The Lib Dem deputy leader, Daisy Cooper, had this to say.
The fact of the matter is she has acted within the law, but as a minister she was trying to change the law, and she hasn't acted in the spirit of the new law that she wanted to introduce. So I think she's right to resign.
And meanwhile, Donald Trump has rowed back on an earlier claim that he will only meet with Vladimir Putin if Zelensky is also at the summit, as his deadline for Moscow arrives today.
Now, has woke been shown the red card? Well, the Premier League has ended its partnership with Stonewall and the charity's Rainbow Laces campaign. Is this taking politics out of the Prem? Well, we'll debate.
And yet, Kemi Badenoch has revealed that she once told on a student who was cheating in the middle of an exam and got him expelled from their school. Did you ever snitch when you were at school, though?
Never. Now, has there been a UFO sighting in Worcestershire? Well, this particular clip has gone viral online, and we'll let you be the judge of what this unidentified flying object is.
this little bit of footage. It's gone viral online, the UFO, right? And then basically, if you're watching it at home and if you're listening on the radio, basically, all you see is a chap throwing a frisbee for his dog.
And that's not the UFO.
That's not the UFO, right? Okay.
That's a bright orange frisbee that is very obviously a frisbee.
Yeah, we don't think that is the UFO, just in case you're thinking we are confused.
That's the IFO.
Yeah.
The identified flying object.
Yeah, we are confused, but we're not that confused. But if you slow down the footage, as this chap did when he got home, obviously, as you do when you're throwing frisbees for your dog, in any case, I digress, you can see a silver-like bullet thing shooting really, really fast through the sky. And I'm not a believer, sorry, but I can't work out what it actually is.
People have guns. I genuinely think.
Not you, hopefully.
I don't actually currently own any guns.
Phew, and breathe. We're safe.
No.
Okay.
I have shotguns.
Okay.
I'm quite good at. I've done a flintlock clay pigeon shoot.
Right. Okay. They let you near a gun. I'm very concerned.
Yeah.
Okay. We have to move on before Tom gets even further down that particular rabbit.
Before I get out my Glock from under the desk.
More of that to come. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, it's news. Where are we going with that one?
Good afternoon, it's 4 minutes past 1. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. And starting with some breaking news this lunchtime, a schoolboy who stabbed another pupil to death on their lunch break has been found guilty of murder. Harvey Wilgoose, 15, was stabbed in the heart by another 15-year-old boy who had brought a hunting knife to school. Sheffield Crown Court heard how other pupils fled in fear and panic, with some locking themselves in a school cupboard after the fatal attack at All Saints Catholic High School in Sheffield on the 3rd of February. The defendant, who cannot be named because of his age, admitted manslaughter but denied murder, saying he snapped after a long period of bullying and does not remember what happened. A jury has now found him guilty of murder by a majority of 11-1 after deliberating for 14 hours. We'll bring you more on that breaking news as we get it. Elsewhere, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has warned that the Israeli government's plan to take over Gaza City will only bring more bloodshed, labelling the plan wrong and urging the Israeli government to reconsider. Benjamin Netanyahu met with the Security Cabinet last night and received approval for a full military takeover of Gaza City and a phased reoccupation plan, saying it's the only way to remove Hamas and liberate the people of Gaza. The UN has warned of catastrophic consequences. The Security Cabinet also adopted 5 principles for ending the entire war, including disarming Hamas, the return of all hostages and the demilitarisation of Gaza. It comes as Prime Minister Netanyahu said Israel intends to take control of the whole of Gaza. The Energy Minister has said today that Rushanara Ali has not broken the law or any rules after she resigned over accusations of hiking rent on her own tenants. Rushanara Ali stepped down following claims she raised rent by hundreds of pounds just weeks after ending her previous tenant's contract. In her resignation letter, Ms Ali insisted she followed all legal requirements, but admitted staying on would be a distraction from the government's work. Sir Keir Starmer thanked her and said her legacy would leave a lasting impact. Conservative Party Chairman Kevin Hollinrake said her position was untenable.
I think actually what Rushanara Ali did was quite extreme, actually, and I've been in the property business a long time, and to basically end a tenancy and then put the rent up by 20% for the next tenant is quite extreme, and most landlords don't do that. And particularly when you're advocating a change yourself and moralising about that change, your position is just not tenable.
President Trump has said that he's open to meeting Russian leader Vladimir Putin without Volodymyr Zelensky. That's as the US president's ceasefire deadline for Russia is set to expire today. Yesterday, a White House source said that Putin must meet with Zelensky for the meeting between President Trump and Putin to occur. However, when asked last night if that would be necessary, the US president said that it wasn't, abandoning a previous pledge for 3-way peace talks. The Kremlin has said that the meeting between the two leaders could happen within days, adding that a location has been agreed. Just days ago, President Trump declared Russia an extraordinary threat to the US, where he rolled out the first wave of sanctions against Putin after his refusal to stop the war in Ukraine. David Lammy is set to meet US Vice President JD Vance today amid those ongoing conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine. The Foreign Secretary is expected to host Mr Vance at Chevening, his official country retreat in Kent, as the Vice President begins a summer holiday with his family in the UK. They'll discuss UK-US relations in a bilateral meeting before being joined by their families. The US and UK have found themselves at odds on Gaza, with Sir Keir Starmer's pledge to recognise a Palestinian state if Israel does not agree to a ceasefire, drawing criticism from Washington. A 4-year-old boy has died after being hit by a bus outside a hospital in Kent. Police were called to the collision outside the Queen Elizabeth Queen Mother Hospital in Margate just after 4 o'clock yesterday. The boy was hit by a white single-decker bus which was travelling near the entrance to the A&D department, Kent Police said. He was taken back inside to the hospital where he was pronounced dead soon after. Investigators from Kent Police's Serious Collision Investigation Unit are urging anyone with relevant information to come forward. And a yellow heat health alert has been issued across much of England for the start of next week as a new wave of warm weather sweeps in. The warning issued by the UK Health Security Agency covers London, Yorkshire, the Humber, East Midlands, the East of England, the South East and the South West, and will be in place from 12 o'clock on Monday until 6 o'clock on Wednesday. Significant impacts across health and social care services may occur over the period due to the high temperatures. The latest warning comes after the UK has already experienced 3 heat waves this summer. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More from me in half an hour.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3442 and €1.1551. The price of gold is £2,519.27 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 9,101 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 9 minutes past 1. Now, a 15-year-old boy has been found guilty at Sheffield Crown Court of murdering fellow pupil Harvey Wilgoose at a school in the city back in February.
The 15-year-old died after being stabbed by a fellow pupil at their school in Sheffield. The defendant had previously admitted a charge of manslaughter.
Well, this is what Harvey Wilgoose's family had to say outside Sheffield Crown Court earlier.
On the 3rd of February, we didn't just lose Harvey, we lost part of ourselves. Our lives changed forever that day. Harvey was full of life, a warm, funny, caring boy who had a unique ability to bring people together. His presence lit up every room. He made people feel seen, heard and valued. He was deeply loved by his family, cherished by his friends and respected by all who knew him. This tragedy has not only devastated our family, but has rippled across the country. People everywhere continue to grieve the loss of our beautiful boy. We know many have been traumatised. Some witnessed the unthinkable. Others held Harvey as he took his last breaths. To them, we send our deepest love and strength. In Harvey's memory, we will continue to speak out. We will raise awareness about the devastating impacts of knife crime and campaign for safer schools, stronger communities and a better, safer future for not just our children, but us all. Thank you.
Well, there, the family of Harvey Wilgoose speaking outside the court.
It's incredibly sad. You can't, I mean, just flicking back at the pictures there, the Sheffield coffin and everything, a 15-year-old child. We're joined now by former chair of Haringey Independent Stop and Search Monitoring Group, Ken Hines. Ken, thank you very much for joining us today. Ken, another child has lost their life to a knife crime. The child that's just been found guilty of this was known for bringing knives and even an axe at one point into school. What can we do to stop this happening anymore?
Look, first of all, my heartfelt condolence go out to the parents, the family, friends, and particularly the school as well. That's all been traumatised by this horrible event. Again, we find ourselves yet here again with young people you know, thinking that they're having to use this sort of violence on others because they can't control the rage. You know, when that red mist comes down, unless you've got some tools that are around you to make you recognize that this is what's going on, then that becomes a problem. I honestly believe that we've got to deal with people's more mental well-being because in the school situation, if they feel that they're being violated, they feel they can't lose face. And if they can't lose face, that means that they'll have to do what they believe is right. In these circumstances, with devastating consequences. One person's lost their life and the other has lost their liberty.
I am shocked as to why sort of compassion or indeed liberties were granted to the killer who continually brought in knives to school. Why was there any leeway here at all? Why was there not an immediate expulsion for someone who had been found on multiple occasions to have been bringing in dangerous weapons to a school? Was this not inevitably going to happen? If someone continually brings in a knife to a school, someone is going to be stabbed. At what point do we say the school failed here, the authorities failed here? The murderous individual who killed Harvey she should not have been in that school.
The school is one aspect, but whether he brings it into the school or he brings it in the community, it's a pattern in his life. We have to look at the underlying issues that make him feel that he needed to have a weapon on him.
Hang on, no. Do we really need to look at underlying issues, or do we just need proper punishment? I mean, should we be looking compassionately towards the killer in this instance? Or should we not just say, anyone who brings a knife into a public place or a school, that's it. Zero tolerance, you're over.
Let me say this much. The reality is that if you're under 18, you repeatedly get slapped on the wrist until you reach the age of 18. That is a problem within itself. My thing is simply this: we've got to do more work on growing their emotional resilience, building up their self-esteem. If they build up their self-esteem, they're not going to do such horrible and tragic things.
Ken, thank you very much for that. That is a former chair of Haringey Independent Stop and Surge Monitoring Group, Ken Hines. In this particular incident, the guilty lad did have mental health issues.
Yeah, but he shouldn't have been at that school. He should not have been at that school.
I agree, and he did have previous for taking weapons into school, so you do think there are questions to be certainly asked and answered in this particular
case. I just think so many of these things could be solved with a much tougher approach to the people who continually wield weapons.
Well, you know, 15-year-old lad's lost his life. OK, let's move on, shall we? A local Labour group is under fire after promoting a counter-protest in Aldershot in favour of housing asylum seekers in hotels.
Yeah, the Farnham and Borden Labour group has since deleted the post, which called on activists to counter anti-migrant hotel marches taking place outside those local hotels.
This comes as the government published the first pictures of its new returns deal with France, as you can see on your screen there.
Well, we're joined now by the Director of First Migration, Dean Morgan. Dean, this seems like it's a very complicated picture. I mean, on the one hand, you have Labour figures in the government saying we want to stop these hotels, but then you have a Labour group out there in the country protesting in favour of these hotels.
Yeah, and it's really confusing. I mean, I was incandescent with rage this morning. I mean, thank God for the Fourth Estate and, you know, a tiny fraction of it, like GBNews, that are exposing these national scandals. So, I mean, what do we have? We have a situation where we have the British public are tired and fed up after 30 years of illegal migration. They've not been listened to by anyone, and they're just exercising their right to have their voice heard. They're concerned about their young people, their daughters, by unvetted men. Effectively, 90% of the photos that are shown by GBNews, they don't seem to be families. And, you know, the counter-protesters are trying to argue that it's the women and children, they have a right to come here. But that's not what we're seeing.
In a lot of these cases, these are exclusively male hotels. At the Epping Hotel, exclusively male hotels. No children, no women.
No, I mean, let me put it bluntly. They're fighting-age men that have a very different culture and have not been vetted. And, you know, The disappointing thing is that the perma-state and, you know, the kind of bureaucracy and the government and the establishment can't see that in a social media age with brave citizen journalists and the likes of GBNews exposing these national scandals, that they can't get away with the agitprop that they used to. And it just further erodes the British public's faith in government, police and the institutions. And if they take away the pressure valve and don't listen to the British public, at some point, this will escalate out of their control.
There was a report in the papers over the weekend that described Britain as being full of rage about this situation. Do you think that's an accurate description?
It is a rage. It's just because they haven't been listened to. You know, whenever these groups speak, they speak about the far right. I don't see any far right Nazis that are marching in these protests. They're women, men, young, old. You know, they're just British patriots, if anything, that can see their country slipping from their hands. And yet you've got the government paying groups and bussing them in with the police. So the state's bringing these people in. They're not even organic. They've just got fake banners that they put up that are paid for by NGOs as a proxy. And the British people now, because of social media, can see this, and that's just further eroding, you know, destroying the social contract between government and the public. And unfortunately, I can only see this situation getting worse because I just keep seeing, you know, the perma-state doubling down and not learning from their errors, and I have to say I'm disappointed.
And yet, of course, what the government tells us repeatedly is they want to close every single migrant hotel by the end of this Parliament. So, I mean, the footage we're now seeing on our screens is footage filmed by the government showing that they are doing more detention than before, that many of these people are going to be returned to France. Granted, they don't say quite how many.
No.
But the government does say they will close all of these hotels by the end of the Parliament. Do you believe them?
I mean, it sounds like the same claim as we're going to bring, you know, legal migration below 100,000. How did that work out? You know, at this point, I mean, it's too little, too late. I mean, when you have, you know, groups from Northern Ireland are protesting, this is only going to get worse. And, you know, they're not really taking concrete steps to try and fix anything. The NGOs that are buying the black Zodiac boats that are bringing people over, there's no targeting of the funding. You know, with Operation Treasure Map, go back and look at Edward Snowden leaks. They could track every mobile device in real time globally in 2011. So you're telling me that an island can't stop boats coming here? We must be complicit.
Dean, the government would say, and we have seen the footage they'll put out of men being escorted into processing centres, that they are doing everything they can. Dean Morgan, thank you very much. That's Director of First Migration. With some very punchy views there, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. It is a bit strange, though, that they're encouraging people to go to migration hotels that they say they want to get rid of in the first place. Make it make sense.
Yes,
OK.
We should say that a Labour Party spokesman has responded to this local Labour group, sharing that poster, telling us here at GB News that the government could not be clearer about the action it was going to take about tackle illegal migration, citing the recent treaty with France and further spending on National Crime Agency operations.
OK, now, just before we move on, take a quick look at this.
Yes, a train ploughed into a van stuck on a level crossing in Poland, with its driver somehow escaping unharmed. Now, police footage shows the driver ignoring stop signs and slipping under the entrance barriers onto the tracks on Wednesday morning before the van was absolutely smashed to bits.
And if you are listening on the radio, it's literally a white van. Think of your average white van that is stuck on a level crossing and for some reason trying to do a three-point turn rather than just carrying on driving through the barrier. The train comes and hits the rear end of this van. And literally, it's like Tinderwood, isn't it?
It really
just falls apart like it's a kid's toy.
But it is the most frustrating thing to watch. It could have just driven forward.
Why didn't you just drive forward?
It could just drive forward. Ultimately, the barriers all got broken anyway. It's amazing that no one was harmed in this.
Yes.
That the driver survived. But my goodness me, what a moron.
Why didn't he just drive forward? We don't know anything about this driver apart from the fact that they survived. I am assuming it's even a man. We don't know that.
We don't know that. Could be an amoeba.
Because I'm assuming that a woman would have indeed just carried on driving.
Oh, I'm not going to stand for that sexism.
We are statistically safer drivers.
They're slower drivers.
And safer airline pilots as well, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Statistically. Yeah, we are. Research it.
Is the ratio of female to male?
All the statistics taken into account. No, that's actually per capita per head. So
no. But I would assume that then, because if there are fewer female airline pilots, they'll be the very best.
No. This is actually broken down on a level playing field.
Yeah. No, but I would
Google it.
I would expect that.
Have a look.
Because of the ratio. If you've got a lot more male pilots, you're going to have a lot more error.
No. It's broken down on the numbers, so they're equal. Oh, for God's sake, why did I go down there?
We're talking about rates, right? But if you were to have a bigger pool of male pilots...
Here is your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for a year and get a bonus £5,000 finished in your bank account. It's the latest Great British giveaway, and guess what? You haven't got a mortgage or rent. You can actually still enter and win
£15,000.
I'll let him talk now. Here's all the details.
This is your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for an entire year in the latest Great British giveaway. That's right, we'll give you a cash lump sum that will cover 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, up to an incredible £20,000. Plus, we'll add £5,000 on top of that for you to treat yourself. And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you, we'll give you £15,000 in cash instead. You have to hurry though, as lines will close on the 29th of August. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck indeed. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and it is actually 24 minutes past 1. And yes, Tom is fine, for those of you showing concern that I just assaulted him live on air.
Yeah,
it's a thing.
HR will be receiving the complaints.
Good luck. They've got a lot already to get through.
Really do.
There's lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, has woke been shown the red card? Well, the Premier League has ended its partnership with Stonewall, the charity, and their Rainbow Laces campaign. Is this taking politics out of the Prem? We'll have that debate.
But after the break, Donald Trump has rowed back on an earlier claim that he will only meet with Vladimir Putin if Zelensky is also at the summit, as his deadline actually arrives today.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, just like week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Oh, I've just got to read this one out. I know I haven't read as many out as I promised I would, but this one has made Tom chuckle. He can still chuckle, by the way.
I can. Yeah,
Peter
I'm
says,
not that traumatised.
I loved your impression of two-tier Keir Dawn. You only did to Tom what Starmer is doing to the whole country.
And for those of you who have just tuned in, Dawn cupped her perfumed hand over my
I kind of gagged you.
Yeah.
Because you do talk a lot sometimes. I mean,
Well,
I'm grateful that you talk a lot.
I was trying to explain a position which I don't think we should get into now.
No! Don't make me do it.
Maybe we can have our own airline pilot gender battle argument a little bit later.
We do this a lot. You wait till we get to bananas. All that's coming up. Any case, now we're going across the pond because Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are expected to meet in the United Arab Emirates next week as the US president ramps up efforts to end the war in Ukraine. Although he has rowed back on an earlier claim that he would only meet the Russian counterpart if Zelensky is also at the summit.
Does Putin have to meet with Zelensky in order and before you and Putin have to meet? Or are you
No.
Are you hoping he doesn't have to agree to meet with Zelensky? Is that what you're saying?
No, he doesn't. No.
Well, this news comes on the eve of the White House ceasefire deadline for Russia. Of course, that is today, Friday. Yes. So let's react to this with the US political journalist, Laurie Laird. Laurie, this is going to be a big moment. Do you think that Trump would agree to meet Putin, both men face to face, had something not been agreed already behind the scenes?
This one is so difficult to read, not least who actually proposed this meeting between Trump and Putin. The Russia side is saying this was all Trump's idea. The American side is saying this was all the Russians' idea. So there's a lack of clarity about who proposed it, whether it will happen, if it happens, where would it take place? Dubai, the UAE seems to be a leading candidate. Putin met with the leaders of the UAE a couple of days ago, and in fact, that's what all of this chat started. So it's difficult to know whether this is even going to happen. But Trump, as you said in your intro comments, Trump does seem to have rowed back on his insistence that Zelensky be at least part of these discussions, whether that's different sets of bilateral meetings or a trilateral meeting. Trump is backing off on that. So let's see whether this comes to be. We know that Trump is hosting the heads of Armenia and Azerbaijan later today. He often does those sort of scattershot, informal Q&A sessions in the Oval Office before he meets leaders. Perhaps we'll get some information coming out of that. I can tell you, though, there's been sort of a flurry of diplomatic activity here in Europe today. Zelensky has spoken to a number of European leaders, and Donald Tusk, the Prime Minister of Poland, has actually come out and said, get ready for a positive announcement. I see a strong possibility there could be a cessation of hostilities in the very near future. Who knows how well placed Donald Tusk is? He's not a great favorite of the U.S. administration, but it does look like things have been happening this morning, even if the U.S. hasn't been a party to some of those conversations.
Do you think that Putin has maybe put pressure on Trump to have the meeting without Zelensky there? Do you think that's actually helpful?
Well, I mean, I was very surprised when it looked like Zelensky might even be on the periphery of a putative meeting. And Putin did say, yeah, he has no problem with meeting Zelensky at some point under a series of conditions. It feels a little bit like this was a way to get Trump into a room with Putin. And it may be that Putin is hoping. Donald Trump seems to have a history of making an announcement based on the last person who was in his ear. So it may be that Putin wants to be the last person who's in his ear. I think Putin has every reason to think that perhaps he can sweet talk Trump into a situation that favors Russia. There's certainly been a history of that before. So that may be what Putin is playing at. I don't know how concerned Putin will be about this threat of secondary sanctions for a couple of reasons. One, I'm not sure that these will actually happen. The other is, you've got to remember, Putin doesn't have to subject himself to elections. So if the Russian economy runs into trouble, and it is starting to slow quite significantly, Putin doesn't have that pesky problem of putting himself before electors.
No, it's a fascinating point. Well, I suppose the only thing to do is wait and see. Wait and see to what's agreed, what happens. But Laurie Laird, for now, US political journalist, thanks indeed for joining us.
Thank you, Laurie, yes. The Trump blows so hot and cold, certainly with Putin. It's really tricky to keep up, isn't it? But we will find out hopefully in the next couple of days. OK, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. It is 33 minutes past 1, and there's loads more coming up on today's show.
Yes, the cost of government debt has just shot up, but that's despite the Chancellor's crowing yesterday over the Bank of England base rate cut. So do stay tuned to find out why this is a new nightmare for Rachel Reeves.
And by extension, the rest of us. But after the break, has woke been shown the red card? The Premier League has ended its partnership with Stonewall and the charity's Rainbow Laces campaign. Is this taking politics out of the Prem at last, fingers crossed? Or is it? All of that and much more to come after the headlines.
Good afternoon. The headlines at 1:33. A schoolboy who stabbed another pupil to death on their lunch break has been found guilty of murder. Harvey Wilgoose, 15, was stabbed in the heart by another 15-year-old boy who had brought a hunting knife to school. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has warned that the Israeli government's plan to take over Gaza City will bring more bloodshed, labelling the plan wrong and urging the Israeli government to reconsider. The Energy Minister has said today that Rushanara Ali has not broken the law or any rules after she resigned over accusations of hiking rent on her own tenants. Rushanara Ali stepped down following claims she raised rent by hundreds of pounds just weeks after ending her previous tenant's contract. President Trump has said he's open to meeting Russian leader Vladimir Putin without Volodymyr Zelensky. That's as the US president's ceasefire deadline in Russia is set to expire today. And a yellow heat health alert is set to take place, come into force rather, on Monday as a new wave of warm weather is coming into the country. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a dry and bright day for most of us. There will be a lot of cloud around and there'll be some showery rain in the far north, mostly to the north of the central belt of Scotland because of these fronts toppling in over an area of high pressure which is building from the south. That's going to bring increasingly summery weather over the next few days and increasingly high temperatures by early next week, especially across the south and the east of the UK. But for the time being, it's pleasant enough out there. Yes, a lot of cloud around, but some breaks in the clouds, some decent sunny spells coming through. It's breezier for northern areas, and certainly we've got strong winds in the far north and northwest with outbreaks of rain. That's going to make it feel cool, but warm enough in the sunshine elsewhere. Then heading into the evening, any cloud in the south tends to fade away, but we keep the cloud in the north with further showers across much of Scotland. Again, that strong breeze across the north and northwest of Scotland, and it's going to be fairly gusty for Northern Ireland as well as Northern England, but clear spells emerging. And for the southern half of the UK, lighter winds, still warm as we head into Friday evening. But it does cool off fairly quickly. It's going to be a relatively fresh night across southern parts under clear skies and with light winds. Brisk breezes towards the north with outbreaks of persistent and at times heavy rain pushing into the north and northwest of Scotland, then later on into Northern Ireland. And temperatures dipping to the single figures in some sheltered spots. Otherwise, we're talking about 12 to 15 Celsius by dawn on Saturday. Plenty of sunshine for England and Wales, but for Scotland and Northern Ireland, we do have this band of rain moving through. That's going to peter out as it pushes into Northern England and North Wales, mainly an area of cloud and drizzle by this stage. Blustery showers into the north of Scotland. Bright skies to the south, plenty of sunshine, highs into the mid-20s. It's going to turn even hotter by Monday and Tuesday.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the M4 westbound at junction 42 Earlswood, resurfacing work has caused a road closure with diversions. In Warwickshire, on the A46 northbound between the A45 Coventry East and the M6, expect 15-minute delays due to congestion, improving by 3:15 this afternoon. In Bedford, a broken-down vehicle on the A1 northbound between the A603 and the A421 is causing lane closures until 2:36. The M25 clockwise between junction 13 and 14 in Surrey had a road incident with lane closures and 10-minute delays, expected to clear by 2:45. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 38 minutes past 1, and it's the time of the show where we check on your views. gbnews.com/your say. Jackie Briggs, hi Jackie, has written in to say, asking again for your say comments, nothing read out. Why? Well, we've been saving it for this moment.
We're keeping the best till this particular moment. Yeah. But lots of you have been getting in touch, and I personally love reading your views out. And lots of you are not that impressed with the government's one in, one out, by the way. And Barry says, no difference in illegal migrants in hotels or in luxury accommodation. Put them in tents.
And with the Sheffield school stabbing, Grandpa Dave has written in to say the murderer should be named now he has been convicted.
Interesting.
And yet he's not been named because he's under 18. So we don't get to know the name of this murderous killer, which I think a lot of people would say that, particularly for older teenagers, yes, they might not be 18, but I think doesn't the public have a right to know?
There was 2 15-year-olds. I mean, yeah, that's a debate for another day. But do keep those coming in, and we will read as many out. I promise we really will. Now, the Premier League has officially ended its 8-year partnership with Stonewall and its Rainbow Laces campaign.
Yes, the league will now develop its own LGBTQ+ inclusion initiative, so say they, set to launch in February following consultation with clubs and fan groups. Rainbow Captains armbands will be dropped, a move made during recent campaigns of all 20 club captains.
Despite the move, education, though, through the community programmes will reportedly remain a core part of the League's strategy moving forward. Well, they have to do that. They have to say that because it is law to have the inclusion in their contracts. In any case, we're joined now by co-founder of LGB Alliance, Kate Harris, and former footballer and broadcaster Mickey Quinn. OK, let's come to you first, Kate. Finally, this is broken. No more rainbow laces, no more rainbow badges. Is this a good thing?
Happy days. It's a very good thing. I'm absolutely delighted. I think Rainbow Races was introduced 12 years ago. 12 years ago, I was possibly still supporting Stonewall. I've spent much of my life supporting them when they were a gay, lesbian and bisexual rights organisation. They went off-piste, shall we say, in 2015. And I'm thrilled that the Premier League is, like so many organisations, ending their relationship with Stonewall, which unfortunately has become a force for bad, for regression, not for progress. So for lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and especially for children, I think this is wonderful news. And I just hope that the people that the Premier League speaks to about their future plans will be people who are interested in the rights of lesbians, gays, and bisexuals, because when we're talking about transgender players or queer players or whoever's included in the plus, the needs, the requirements are completely different.
Kate, just before we come to Mickey, obviously these armbands didn't have the transgender colours on them. They were just the sort of traditional rainbow flag.
Yes.
Do you have a problem with that?
Yes, I
Why?
do. Well, I'm against people being forced to wear anything. So, for example, we had 1 or 2 players who, for religious reasons, didn't want to wear it. You know, if you're out socially and you want to wear a rainbow badge, that's entirely up to you. I don't want anybody. And one of the main failures that we've had to talk to Stonewall about and try to change the way they operate is people will not welcome being made to do anything. So it's not just football, it's the civil service. You speak to a civil servant who's supposed to be impartial, and they may be wearing a pride lanyard or a progress lanyard. And some people might say to me, well, surely if it's the pride lanyard, you're fine with that. No.
Let's bring Mickey into this. Mickey, you, I'm assuming, think it is a bad thing that rainbows will no longer be worn. What's your opinion?
I think anything that doesn't highlight things like racism, LGBTQ, is a bad thing. I think you need more awareness all the time, because I'm only talking about sport, which I'm, as a footballer, being in a dressing room, and now there's still no openly gay or bisexual players currently in the Premier League. Now, why is that? So if, you know, the Premier League are going to come out and do this all singing and dancing and make everybody aware, I know the FA have done it, in grassroots football, and they've done it also in the Women's Super League, then fine. But men's football has a problem. So any awareness, and I've seen kids buying the football laces, you know, because of the colour, you know, and the armbands, the captain, the armbands, and they didn't really know what it was about. So then the parents explained what it was all about. And I think that awareness still should carry on. Whether it's Stonewall, whether it's the Premier League, but I still think, you know, there was 19 captains, by the way, out of 20. So it was only one, because of his Muslim faith, wouldn't wear that rainbow, you know, armband. So to me, any awareness is good awareness.
Yeah.
Kate, coming back to you, I mean, the fact that we've been wearing rainbow laces and rainbow armbands for 12 years now, and it still has encouraged players to come out as gay, doesn't really work then, does it?
Well, apparently Jake Daniels came out in 2022 playing for Blackpool in the Championship. So they've had one success story, but that wasn't the Premier League. I totally agree with Mickey. I think we're on the same page. I want to encourage people to, especially the men, because it's quite obvious there's a problem in the Premiership. Look at the Lionesses. How many of them, and we love them so much, they're so full of life. Half of them are lesbians in happy relationships. They're glamorous.
To the extent that one of them was in a relationship with someone she was playing against on the Spanish team, which was the most incredible piece of news, right? She's playing against her own girlfriend in the final. I mean, remarkable.
The spirit of it is so different. And I agree with you, Nikki. In the men's league, we've got to say, what is it that's preventing gay men from coming out? But can I say one thing? LGBTQ plus, for many, many gays, lesbians and bisexuals, is against us. So it's off-putting. If the Premier League says, we're now going to see how we can work to help more men in the Premier League have the courage to come out, we will welcome that. But for as long as they talk about LGBTQ plus, it's off-putting, because that is an identity ideology that denies the value of homosexuality. So the Premier League needs some advice. And as a co-founder of LGB Alliance, may I offer on your show today to meet with the chief exec and have a discussion about how we can support what Mickey wants and what we want. We want half the England football team to be gay men, half the Lionesses to be gay women. Why not?
Mick, let's leave the final word to you, Mick. Any response?
I just think anything that makes the awareness for people and men in general to come out and openly say, look, I am gay. And I'm talking about, you haven't been in a dressing room, have you? A 22-man dressing room where testosterone's flying high around, you know, and against men would be a good thing, I think, for sport.
Okay, thank you very much, Kate and Mickey there. That's our founder of LGB Alliance, Kate Harris, and former footballer and broadcaster Mickey Quinn.
I mean, it could just be that there aren't any gay people in the Premier League, and that's OK.
And if you believe that, I've got a bridge to show you. Breaking news, meanwhile, the National Crime Agency has agreed to lead and continue an investigation into allegations of child sexual abuse by former South Yorkshire police officers. The investigation will be carried out by officers from Operation Stovewood. Its head of operations, Philip Marshall, said, "We will work closely with the force and the Independent Office for Police Conduct to ensure that victims receive the best service and support as the investigation is transferred to us."
Really significant news there. Of course,
Very
we'll
much
bring you
so.
more on that throughout the programme and indeed throughout the day here on GB News. We've been following that story and the associated rape gang scandal very closely.
Yes, we will. But we move on quickly. In search of some holiday sun to escape, couldn't blame you. Here is a forecast for some of those top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Looking ahead to tomorrow, and the weather across southern Europe is looking pretty dry for most places, albeit a bit of rain is pushing across Madeira. Meanwhile, for Spain, Portugal and even France, the heat is continuing to build, so temperatures for some could be getting into the high 30s, maybe even low 40s through the weekend. Meanwhile, across parts of Italy, Greece, even into Turkey, lots of dry and hot weather here, and that's how the outlook is looking as well, staying largely sunny.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Our reporter Anna Riley is in Ilkley. Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hey, by gum, what accents you've got there this morning. Happy Yorkshire Day and welcome to Ilkley. It certainly is God's own country, is Yorkshire. Absolutely splendid place, and of course we're so proud of our culture. We've got our own language, we've got our own sayings, and it's just a beautiful part of the world. Celebrated every year on the 1st of August. It's arranged by the Yorkshire Society, and it's all about celebrating our heritage, and it's going to be great for businesses as well as the town here today. We're going to have a procession of mayors coming through later this morning, the largest gathering of civic mayors in the world, and we're going to hear the town crier and also on Ilkley Moor bar taps, which means on Ilkley Moor without your hats. The unofficial anthem of Yorkshire is going to be sung. We're joined this morning now by Joe Smith. He's the retail manager of Lishman's of Ilkley, and of course a butcher with a pork pie.
Good morning.
Good morning. Tell us about Yorkshire Day and what it means to you.
So Yorkshire Day for us is very good for the business and all the local authorities. It brings all people down to the shop celebrating Yorkshire Day. I think today will especially be great.
What is it about Yorkshire folk and about the countryside that we've got here as well, the moors, and what do you think draws people here?
Well, it's just the natural beauty, and it's away from everything. You know, we're not in the city, we're in a really nice kind of area.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 10 to 2 and we're continuing that breaking news that the National Crime Agency has agreed to lead and continue an investigation into allegations of child sexual abuse by former South Yorkshire police officers.
The investigation will be carried out by officers from Operation Stovewood. Its head of operations, Philip Marshall, has said, "We will work closely with the force and the Independent Office for Police Conduct to ensure that victims receive the best service and support as the investigation is transferred to us."
Now, this is really important because previously South Yorkshire police were expected to, in effect, mark their own homework.
This is the bottom line,
investigate themselves. Well, now that investigation has been taken out of the hands of South Yorkshire Police because it's an investigation into South Yorkshire Police. So the National Crime Agency doing this instead of SYP, probably a very, very good thing. More arm's length, more independent.
This is the whole situation here. The ordinary people, you out there and us here on GB News have been, and Charlie Peter's done sterling work on this, have been screaming for. How can you ask whether it's the councils or, as we learned recently, the police officers involved in this, to investigate themselves? What kind of justice is that going to give to the young girls, thousands of young girls all over the country, who have been put through horrors that you can't even talk about, you can't begin to imagine? What kind of justice was this going to give to them? This has to be good news.
Absolutely, and it also shows how serious they're taking these allegations.
Yes,
because
finally.
Because can you imagine what it was like to be a young girl, a child who had been gang raped, went to the police for help, only to then be raped by a police officer who was associated with the rapist? If that hypothetical situation is actually what has happened in practice, and there have been allegations to that effect, well, that is a serious, serious charge.
Yes, and there is no way that the police or the councils could be trusted to do this. I mean, there have been lots of allegations about girls being abused in actual police vehicles. As we say, these are allegations. This is what the National Crime Agency are now going to investigate. We are talking about girls as young as 10 years old who were not believed and in many cases were called prostitutes. They're 10. It's the most appalling scandal I think this country has ever seen. So hopefully things are moving on. The girls will be listened to, because it's still going on, by the way.
Yeah. So this is the Operation Stovewood from the National Crime Agency taking over.
In any case, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. There's loads more coming up, so don't go anywhere, but it is time to have a quick look at the weather. See you soon.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a dry and bright day for most of us. There will be a lot of cloud around and there'll be some showery rain in the far north, mostly to the north of the central belt of Scotland because of these fronts toppling in over an area of high pressure which is building from the south. That's going to bring increasingly summery weather over the next few days and increasingly high temperatures by early next week, especially across the south and the east of the UK. But for the time being, it's pleasant enough out there. Yes, a lot of cloud around, but some breaks in the clouds, some decent sunny spells coming through. It's breezier for northern areas, and certainly we've got strong winds in the far north and northwest with outbreaks of rain. That's going to make it feel cool, but warm enough in the sunshine elsewhere. Then heading into the evening, any cloud in the south tends to fade away, but we keep the cloud in the north with further showers across much of Scotland. Again, that strong breeze across the north and northwest of Scotland, and it's going to be fairly gusty for Northern Ireland as well as Northern England, but clear spells emerging. And for the southern half of the UK, lighter winds, still warm as we head into Friday evening. But it does cool off fairly quickly. It's going to be a relatively fresh night across southern parts under clear skies and with light winds. Brisk breezes towards the north with outbreaks of persistent and at times heavy rain pushing into the north and northwest of Scotland, then later on into Northern Ireland. And temperatures dipping to the single figures in some sheltered spots. Otherwise, we're talking about 12 to 15 Celsius by dawn on Saturday. Plenty of sunshine for England and Wales, but for Scotland and Northern Ireland, we do have this band of rain moving through. That's going to peter out as it pushes into Northern England and North Wales, mainly an area of cloud and drizzle by this stage. Blustery showers into the north of Scotland. Bright skies to the south, plenty of sunshine, highs into the mid-20s. It's going to turn even hotter by Monday and Tuesday.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Let us take on some of your financial stresses and pay your mortgage or rent for the next 12 months. We want to give you a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, up to an unbelievable £20,000. We'll also boost that by a further £5,000, so you really could have some fun in the coming year. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Jupiter, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Friday, the 8th of August. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Dawn Neeson.
Now we can reveal that a Labour group is under fire after it promoted an Asylum hotel counter-protest. This comes as the government shared the first detention images of its new returns deal with France, and as almost 400 small boat migrants have crossed the Channel since that deal was signed.
Well, police across the country are preparing for another weekend of protests at multiple asylum seeker hotels.
And breaking news, the Prime Minister condemns Israel's war cabinet for approving plans to take control of Gaza City.
But now reports suggest Israel could cut UK security ties if Keir Starmer recognises a Palestinian state. Britain relies on Israeli intelligence to spot and stop terror attacks in this country. Could a severance of ties put us at risk of Islamist terror?
And the National Crime Agency has agreed to lead and continue an investigation into allegations of child sex abuse by former South Yorkshire police officers.
In other crime and justice news, a 15-year-old boy has been found guilty at Sheffield Crown Court of murdering fellow pupil Harvey Wilgoose at a school in the city in February.
And now the cost of government debt has shot up. That's despite the Chancellor crowing over yesterday's Bank of England interest rates cuts. Stay tuned to find out why this is a nightmare for Rachel Reeves and, yes, you as well.
Now, Kemi Badenoch has revealed that she once told on a student who was cheating in the middle of an exam and got him expelled from school. Did you ever snitch at school?
And this video of a man chopping the top off of a banana and eating it in an interesting way is doing the rounds. We're discovering how you should eat your banana very soon. And if you've got any weird food habits, let us know. gbnews.com/say.
There's a lot to get through this show. Everything
really
from
is.
crime and justice serious news to how to eat a banana.
Yes, indeed. Guess which part I'm looking forward to most? Come on, it's a Friday.
It is a
Lighten
Friday.
up, people. Did you ever grass on anyone at school?
I don't think I did.
Are you sure?
I'm fairly sure I never did.
No, I didn't either. Would you do that? I think it's a bit mean. Meanwhile, Mark White is being very quiet in the corner. Mark, did you ever grass on anyone at school? You've never been asked this live on air, have you?
I've been grassed upon many of the
Oh,
times.
you were the person copying the exam.
Yeah, well, very much so.
Oh, I think I probably did copy someone's homework at some point. Never in an exam, but I'm fairly sure at some point I will have sort of forgotten to do homework and in the morning just sort of scribbled down.
You've literally got a brain the size of a planet. You wouldn't have known. You don't need to do homework. You said earlier on he didn't do any revision for his A-levels, right? He just rocked up and got A stars or whatever you lot got at your age.
Yeah, but that's because, I mean, yes, I didn't do formal revision. It's only because Dawn has her revision papers out, like some sort of GCSE student, with colour-coded files in front of her.
Yes.
Whereas my sum total notes for the show today look like this.
That they can read that bit.
Don't zoom in.
Yeah, no, don't zoom in on that bit. No, whatever.
Mine look
It
like
makes a lot
this.
of sense to me.
Nothing.
Look, you've got nothing for you because you've got a brain the size of a planet. There you go.
Yes,
It's all-
indeed. Yeah.
Gas giant.
Yeah.
We've actually what we have got here is the gradation of preparation, or perhaps of note taking. Sort of, it goes from full notes to semi notes to no notes. It's like one of those sort of two Ronnies sketches, isn't it? You know, I'm middle class, or you know.
Oh yes, like that. Yeah, no, I'm working class.
Yeah.
I got loads of notes here. That leaves Mark Billy no mate.
Yes.
Top hat.
No, that absolutely looked down at me.
Oh, amazing.
Okay,
Well, there's so
what was-
much more to come, not just admiring each other's coloured folders.
Yes, you haven't got any colour folded, but that you just showed that on camera.
I did.
You are going to be in so much trouble.
What, 4.25?
No, that bit underneath. Anyway, should we move on? Where are we? What are we doing? Who are we?
Well, shall we go to the news and we'll be
Yes,
back with you
Katie.
in just
Katie's
a couple of
sensible. I bet
moments.
she's got notes as well.
Tom, Dawn, thank you. The headlines at 2:04. A schoolboy who stabbed another pupil to death on their lunch break has been found guilty of murder. Harvey Wilgoose, 15, was stabbed in the heart by another 15-year-old boy who had brought a hunting knife to school. Sheffield Crown Court heard how other pupils fled in fear and panic, with some locking themselves in a school cupboard after the fatal attack at All Saints Catholic High School in Sheffield on the 3rd of February. The defendant, who cannot be named because of his age, admitted manslaughter but denied murder, saying he snapped after a long period of bullying and does not remember what happened. A jury has now found him guilty of murder by a majority of 11-1 after deliberating for over 14 hours. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has warned that the Israeli government's plan to take over Gaza City will only bring more bloodshed, labelling the plan wrong and urging the Israeli government to reconsider. Benjamin Netanyahu met with his security cabinet last night and received approval for a military takeover of Gaza City and a phased reoccupation plan, saying it's the only way to remove Hamas and liberate the people of Gaza. The UN has warned of catastrophic consequences. The security cabinet also adopted 5 principles for ending the entire war, including disarming Hamas, the return of all hostages, and the demilitarisation of Gaza. It comes as Prime Minister Netanyahu said Israel intends to take control of the whole of Gaza. The Energy Minister has said today that Rushanara Ali has not broken the law or any rules after she resigned over accusations of hiking rent on her own tenants. Rushanara Ali stepped down following claims she raised rent by hundreds of pounds just weeks after ending her previous tenant's contract. In her resignation letter, Ms Ali insisted she followed all legal requirements, but admitted staying on would be a distraction from the government's work. Sir Keir Starmer thanked her and said her legacy would leave a lasting impact. Conservative Party Chairman Kevin Hollinrake said her position was untenable.
I think actually what Rushanara Ali did was quite extreme, actually, and I've been in the property business a long time, and to basically end a tenancy and then put the rent up by 20% for the next tenant is quite extreme, and most landlords don't do that. And particularly when you're advocating a change yourself and moralising about that change, your position is just not tenable.
And a yellow heat health alert has been issued across much of England for the start of next week as a new wave of warm weather sweeps in. The warning issued by the UK Health Security Agency covers London, Yorkshire and the Humber, East Midlands, East of England, the South East and the South West, and will be in place from 12 p.m. on Monday until 6 p.m. on Wednesday. Significant impacts across health and social care services may occur over the period due to the high temperatures. The latest warning comes after the UK has already experienced 3 heat waves this summer. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More from me in half an hour.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3437 and €1.1537. The price of gold is £2,533.91 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 9,093 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 8 minutes past 2. Now, a 15-year-old boy has been found guilty at Sheffield Crown Court of murdering fellow pupil Harvey Wilgoose at a school in the city in February.
The 15-year-old died after being stabbed by the fellow pupil at their school in Sheffield. The defendant had previously admitted a charge of manslaughter.
Well, we're joined now by the former Chief Inspector Mike Neville. Mike, it is just terrible to read and learn of stories like this. The violence in our schools it seems like it's getting worse.
Well, you're right, and my heart goes out as a parent to the Harvey's family. And when we send our children to school, we expect them to be safe, don't we? It was very safe when I was at school. But it was reported, Channel 4 last year reported there was 150 knife incidents in schools. That means stabbings or robberies. So when you take a school week, say, that's 4 per week. And often we associate these things with London, don't we? And we associate knife crime with sort of Jack the Ripper in the night time and this. And now it's in schools throughout the country. We saw last year the girl found guilty of stabbing 2 teachers and a pupil in South Wales. So really action has got to be taken here. And what we see all the time is that the government talk tough on knife crime, and they'll come up with hot air like banning samurai swords or something like that. But what they don't do, they don't sentence people properly. So only about 30% of people found in possession of a knife are sent to jail. And only 40% of those who are found for a second or more times with a knife are sent to jail. And I know that the press are reporting that this young lad who was involved, who's not been named, who was the murderer, he was found in possession of an axe just a couple of weeks or a couple of months before this occurrence. So we have to crack down on the carrying of weapons, particularly in schools.
That is a stunning statistic, that 60% of people who have been found with a knife on more than one occasion do not go to prison. I mean, we don't have any sort of deterrent for those people.
No.
Well, what they know as well is that they're very unlikely. The police have cut down on stop and search. So if you carry a knife, firstly, it's a good gamble in the sense that the police are unlikely to stop and search you. And secondly, even if you're found with that knife, the likelihood of you receiving a substantive prison sentence or any prison sentence at all is very low. So we need to stop this. There's a real scourge of knife crime, and it's really young people who suffer this, who are the victims of these crimes, as well as the perpetrators. So we need to keep our schools safe. We need teachers and pupils to be safe. Now, there's talks of knife arches and other methods in school of stopping it, but I've got to say, it really does sadden me that we even have to speak about that you have to consider having knife arches in a school in Sheffield. It's really shocking.
Mike, thank you very much. That's former Chief Inspector Mike Neville on the horrific case of Will Wilgus. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, a local Labour group is under fire after promoting a counter-protest in Aldershot in favour of housing asylum seekers in hotels.
Now, the Farnham and Borden Labour group has since deleted this post, which called on activists to counter anti-migrant hotel marches taking place outside those local hotels.
This comes as the government published the first pictures of its new returns deal with France.
Well, we can speak now to Mark White, our Home and Security Editor, for more on all of the above. Where are we at?
Well, this is going to be a busy weekend of protests at Asylum hotels right across the country. We just had an email through from the Metropolitan Police about the situation in London. They say that they've called a mutual aid, additional resources from other police forces to come in because they're expecting lots of different protests outside hotels. Today, in fact, they're going to have additional resources at the hotel in Canary Wharf, the Britannia, and also at the Thistle City Hotel in Islington, where we've seen previous protests that have taken place. In addition to that, there are pro-Palestinian protests taking place over the weekend, coupled with anti-Israel protests as well. And the Met say that there are groups, in particular those pro-Palestinian groups, who are looking to challenge the recent ban on Palestine action, are looking to be arrested in very significant numbers. So they expect it to be a very busy weekend. And what's happening in London is being replicated to a lesser degree in other centres of population. And they will have to call a mutual aid as well to ensure that they are adequately policed just in case there is any potential for there to be disruptive protests or trouble at any of these events.
Mark, the financial cost to taxpayers is millions of pounds, obviously, and having the police monitor all these events, if your house is getting burgled, you're getting assaulted or beaten up, or all the other crime that's going on, there's less coppers to deal with that as well.
This is exactly right, and while it is sustainable in the short term, if this becomes a regular thing, a deployment of additional resources between police forces over the longer term, police forces are going to really suffer. It eats into their budgets as well, because they'll try to ensure that they are still able to provide effective policing in their communities. Yeah. That might be taking in those that are supposed to be off duty back in on overtime. That all eats into the resources that the police have available.
OK, well,
thank you, Mark
White, thanks for bringing us that overview. Let's speak now with the international security and border control expert, Henry Bolton. Henry, just to start on this issue of protests, I suppose one of the big concerns that the police will have this weekend is it's going to be very, very sunny in London. And we've seen some of these protests in earlier weeks. People coming out despite the overcast weather, despite the rain, people protesting in large numbers. Given it's going to be bloomin' sunny, this could be a serious, serious weekend.
Yeah, and I think it's going to, the whole thing is going to continue to grow and escalate, because, we've started off from the position of people expressing their concern, local communities expressing their concern about asylum seekers being housed in hotels, about young men outside schools and so on, the crime rates going up. There's a lot of concern, entirely legitimate, apolitical concern from ordinary people. That, first of all, hasn't been listened to. The government has been it's been a totally deaf ear from the government side. The government, for its part, keeps talking tough about stopping the boats, but actually has absolutely zero impact on the flow across the channel. We're seeing people being moved into more and more towns, into social housing, into new housing developments that are being taken up by local councils to accommodate these people. The problem is getting worse. The public is getting more frustrated. We're seeing the protests now, and quite honestly, I think these are just going to continue to escalate until such time as the government actually starts to listen and take them seriously. You talk about the good weather, you talk about the numbers. It's not just about the weather, it's also about public frustration. And I have every sympathy with it. We're supposed to live in a democracy, and yet we've got a political class that is absolutely failing to even acknowledge the legitimacy of the concerns.
Henry, the government are obviously hoping that the footage they have released showing migrants who have crossed illegally being escorted into processing centres with the alluded to that they will be returned to France. We don't know exactly how many will be alluded to France, but that doesn't seem to be quietening down the anger in this country.
No, and it won't. And I think, actually, Dawn, it's going to potentially add to the anger and the frustration because, one in, one out is a play on the words. It's not one in, one out at all. If anything, it's one potentially to France and one back in from France. It's going to have, I've said before, the impact on the flow of boats and the impact on the number of people who enter the country illegally is going to be so negligible as to be beyond. We're not going to be able to measure it. It's simply going to be so insignificant. It's going to have no effect as a deterrent whatsoever. And there are all sorts of practical problems with this agreement. We've got the UK side has got 14 days to assess an individual for the security threats and so on, the risks that they pose, explain to the French what checks have been done and how they can be verified, which of course they can't. You get somebody coming over from Syria, how on earth can you do that? Mm-hmm. So the French are going to be saying, well, hang on a minute, this isn't exactly watertight, is it? You've got problems the other way as well. The French, even if we're taking people from France, they've got to apply online. They are supposed to apply online from France, but one of the conditions that it makes them eligible to come here is, under this agreement, is that they should have no right to be in France in the first place. So, yet they're making an application supposedly online from France.
It's a mess, Henry, but... No, thank you for spelling it out for us. We do have to move on, but I do want to just say your description there of not one in, one out, but in actual fact, one out, one in. I hope that catches on, because that does seem like much more of an accurate description of what is actually going on. But Henry Bolton, thanks indeed for joining us, International Security and Border Control expert.
It's a karaoke from hell, the okey cokey from hell, isn't it? It's just like one in, one out, and
shake it all about.
Exactly, indeed. OK, in response to the local Labour group sharing the Stand Up to Racism poster, a Labour spokesman told GB News that the government could not be clearer about the action it was taking to tackle illegal migration, citing the recent treaty we've just been discussing with France and further spending on National Crime Agency operations.
Now, to move on, in what could signal a major escalation in the Israel-Gaza war, Israel's war cabinet has approved plans to occupy Gaza City as part of a wider plan to take control of the whole Gaza Strip.
The decision has divided both Israelis and Israel's allies, with Sir Keir Starmer condemning the decision as wrong and saying it will only lead to more bloodshed.
But here's the significant bit. Reports have emerged that Israel could stop defence and security cooperation with the UK if the Prime Minister presses ahead with his plans to recognise a Palestinian state. Now, that could have serious security implications. As Israel does share a lot of intelligence with the Brits, could we be more at risk of Islamist terror plots in the United Kingdom if they stop sharing that information.
OK, well, let's get the thoughts now of Israel Special Envoy for Trade and Innovation, Fleur Hassan-Nahum. Fleur, thank you very much for joining us today. Fleur, this obviously is causing huge division in Israel, causing huge division amongst Israel's allies, which includes the United Kingdom. Now, we have a very close relationship with Israel. How dangerous would it be for both countries if security information was stopped being shared?
Well, it's probably be much more dangerous for the UK, but when you're friends, the friendship has to go two ways. And 2 weeks ago, Keir Starmer, in, I think, a performative, very ill-timed move, decided that he was going to compensate Hamas by declaring Palestinian statehood in the UN in September. Now, he did that despite the fact that we asked him not to. We're in the middle of a war. The war hasn't been resolved yet. And in fact, all that served to do was harden the hand of Hamas to leave the negotiating table. Now, Hamas have been intransigent since the beginning. But the fact that Keir Starmer and Macron and the Canadian Prime Minister all declared their intention to declare statehood in the UN hardened Hamas's hand, and especially Keir Starmer, who actually put no conditions on Hamas for this prize he's going to be giving them in September. He didn't say renounce all violence. He didn't say, you know, decide that you're going to live side by side with Israel. He didn't say stop educating your children in this toxic curriculum of martyrdom and a death cult and the destruction of Israel. He didn't say any of this. Keir Starmer's conditions for Palestinian statehood were solely put on Israel. Now, that's not what friends do. That's not what friends do.
Do you think that this new announcement from the War Cabinet is in some ways a response to that hardening from Hamas, which in turn was a response to the British, French and Canadian announcements? I mean, if Britain, France and Canada hadn't announced that they were to recognise a Palestinian state, would this Gaza City operation be going ahead in the way that it is?
Well, I can't say. You can't give exact causality, but what I can say to you is this. Hamas, the Americans, Witkoff, they put a lot of their political capital in trying to get Hamas around the table to negotiate a 60-day ceasefire that would see 10, not 20, 10 hostages come home, which to me is not enough. As long as there's one living hostage there, it's a big problem. And we know how they've been treated, tortured, starved. And Hamas left the negotiating table when it realized that A, the world was condemning Israel for the humanitarian situation, and B, when Starmer, Macron, and the Canadian Prime Minister announced that they were giving them statehood with zero conditions. But I tell you what the biggest irony is, you know who did put conditions? The Arab League. The Sunni moderate Arab country said Hamas must stop governing Gaza. Hamas can no longer continue to govern Gaza. If only Keir Starmer would have been as logical as the Arab League was, we might be in a different place. So yes, one thing led to the other.
Fleur, we have run out of time, unfortunately. Fleur, thank you very much for joining us. That's Israel Special Envoy for Trade and Innovation, Fleur Hassan-Nahum. Thank you very much, Fleur.
Pretty strong statement there. The idea that actually it could have been Britain's actions that have inspired this. At least that's what some Israelis are arguing.
It's possible, isn't it? Who knows? OK, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. There's loads more coming up on today's show. Kemi Badenoch has revealed that she once told on a student who was cheating in the middle of an exam and got him expelled from school. Did you ever snitch at school, though? But after the break, now the cost of government debt has shot up. That's despite the Chancellor crowing over yesterday's Bank of England interest rate. Stay tuned to find out why. And is this a nightmare for Rachel Reeves?
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 27 minutes past 2, and we're going to take you live to Kent, where the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, and the Vice President of the United States, JD Vance, are meeting with a variety of topics on the table.
Actually, you can see, and as you can see on your screens there, it's set up kind of like the Oval Office with two chairs sat in front of a fireplace with the Stars and Stripes of America and the Union flag, and a semicircle, very much like the Oval Office, Tom, of people looking like they are poised to ask questions. No sign of Vance or David Lammy yet.
But he is being hosted, that is, Vance is being hosted by David Lammy.
It's the official residence, isn't it?
Yes, Chevening, which is the Foreign Secretary's official residence, grand country estate. You're a very lucky person if you're the Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom, because you get to host in these magnificent settings. But it does appear that now there is David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, greeting dignitaries in the room. And that is JD Vance there, greeting the Brits who are sitting on the left-hand side of the screen as we see it, the Americans on the right-hand side of the screen. Let's listen in.
Not bad. Yeah, that's beautiful. Let's put that down. Yeah. Okay. We're going to sit down and then... Yes, I think so. Great. Okay.
Everybody comfortable, happy?
Great. Oh. Sorry. Okay, that's good, thank you. Unless you want it. No, I'm good. So is there a name for this room?
It's the drawing room.
It's the drawing room, okay.
Well, we are clearly waiting for this meeting to start. JD Vance has learnt that this room is called the drawing room, which is exciting.
That was a classic piece of conversation, wasn't it? The visit is expected to last 3 nights, and it does promise to be, as I think we've just witnessed, a classic of the political odd couple genre. We think that Vance and Lammy have struck up an unlikely friendship, because you wouldn't really put them together, would you? Over their shared Christian faith.
But also, there is a sort of an Anglophilia from JD Vance. He loves the United Kingdom.
Really does, absolutely.
But also, David Lammy has spent a lot of his time in the United States of America. He's been he's taught at Harvard. He has a good understanding of American politics.
Yes.
And so you do get this sort of slightly odd couple, very different worldviews, completely different sort of approaches to international affairs, and yet probably quite a bit to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when Vance hosted Lammy and his wife Nicola earlier this year, they went to Mass together. So they do have that shared background. I think they also come... I mean, you know, Vance comes from a very... it's got his backstory is absolutely fascinating.
Isn't it?
Sort of like, you know, poverty, etc. And David Lammy's own background is quite humble, so they're bonding on rising to where they are in politics, which, regardless of what you think of their politics, is actually an amazing achievement.
For people, you know, born on the wrong side of the tracks, or Vance with his family with drug addiction and alcohol addiction. I mean, the fact that they are there in the drawing room, as we learn, of Chevening, this 17th century mansion, this gilded palatial setting. I mean, it does show that sort of social mobility is alive and well in the United Kingdom and the United States.
And David Lammy, has attempted to play nice with the Vice President, saying that Vance's book, which we're just talking about there, Hillbilly Elegy, reminded him of his own childhood and reduced me to tears.
Wow.
I know, that's quite strong, isn't it? The Foreign Secretary has even spoken of having an epiphany while sharing drinks with the Vice President, during which he realised the pair were not just working-class politicians, but people with dysfunctional childhoods. I mean, there might be some, you know, born thousands of miles apart, but they do have a lot in common.
Yeah, and of course there is a big imperative for the United Kingdom and the United States to remain steadfast allies. The world is safer when Britain and America are together, and there is always a risk that when you've got a party of a completely different ideology running one country and running the other, that you do get a drift. And yet, strangely, when Republicans are in the White House, whether it's Labour or Tory politicians in Britain, it does seem to be that there is a bit more Anglophilia from the Republican lot than the Democrat.
However, David Lammy might have some explaining to do by what precisely he meant in 2018 when he tweeted that Donald Trump was a woman-hating, neo-Nazi, sympathising sociopath.
I think he's rode back a little bit from that.
I know, but I mean, it might be an interesting one to talk about in the drawing room. Is that what
Yes, I think it was the drawing room. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. We'll bring you much more on that meeting as soon as we get it, but still, much more to come on the show.
Yeah, Kemi Badenoch has revealed that she once told on a student who was cheating in the middle of an exam and got him thrown out of school. Were you a snitch like Kemi?
But after the break, the cost of government debt has shot up, and that's despite all of that crowing yesterday about the cut of the Bank of England base rate. So what does this mean? Well, frankly, it's another nightmare for Rachel Reeves. That's after your headlines.
Good afternoon. The headlines at 2:33. A schoolboy who stabbed another pupil to death on their lunch break has been found guilty of murder. Harvey Wilgoose, 15, was stabbed in the heart by another 15-year-old boy who had brought a hunting knife to school. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has warned that the Israeli government's plan to take over Gaza City will only bring more bloodshed, labelling the plan wrong and urging the Israeli government to reconsider. The Energy Minister has said today that Rushanara Ali has not broken the law or any rules after she resigned over accusations of hiking rent on her own tenants. Rushanara Ali stepped down following claims she'd raised rent by hundreds of pounds just weeks after ending her previous tenant's contract. President Trump has said he's open to meeting Russian leader Vladimir Putin without Volodymyr Zelensky. That's as the US president's ceasefire deadline for Russia is set to expire today. And a yellow heat health alert has been issued across much of England for the start of next week as a new wave of warm weather sweeps in. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a dry and bright day for most of us. There will be a lot of cloud around and there'll be some showery rain in the far north, mostly to the north of the central belt of Scotland because of these fronts toppling in over an area of high pressure which is building from the south. That's going to bring increasingly summery weather over the next few days and increasingly high temperatures by early next week, especially across the south and the east of the UK. But for the time being, it's pleasant enough out there. Yes, a lot of cloud around, but some breaks in the clouds, some decent sunny spells coming through. It's breezier for northern areas, and certainly we've got strong winds in the far north and northwest with outbreaks of rain. That's going to make it feel cool, but warm enough in the sunshine elsewhere. Then heading into the evening, any cloud in the south tends to fade away, but we keep the cloud in the north with further showers across much of Scotland. Again, that strong breeze across the north and northwest of Scotland, and it's going to be fairly gusty for Northern Ireland as well as Northern England, but clear spells emerging. And for the southern half of the UK, lighter winds, still warm as we head into Friday evening. But it does cool off fairly quickly. It's going to be a relatively fresh night across southern parts under clear skies and with light winds. Brisk breezes towards the north with outbreaks of persistent and at times heavy rain pushing into the north and northwest of Scotland, then later on into Northern Ireland. And temperatures dipping to the single figures in some sheltered spots. Otherwise, we're talking about 12 to 15 Celsius by dawn on Saturday. Plenty of sunshine for England and Wales, but for Scotland and Northern Ireland, we do have this band of rain moving through. That's going to peter out as it pushes into Northern England and North Wales, mainly an area of cloud and drizzle by this stage. Blustery showers into the north of Scotland. Bright skies to the south, plenty of sunshine, highs into the mid-20s. It's going to turn even hotter by Monday and Tuesday.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The A92 Tay Road Bridge is closed to double-decker vehicles with a 30 mph speed limit due to high winds. The M4 westbound at junction 42 near Earlswood is closed for resurfacing with diversions. Motorists face delays on the M5 southbound between junctions 7 and 8 in Worcestershire due to a collision causing an hour-long wait. The A34 southbound.
We can take you live to Chevening, where David Lammy and JD Vance are discussing matters of international affairs.
It's a tough situation. Of course, we're not going to know exactly how to solve a very complicated problem. As the president has said himself, that people in some ways have been fighting for thousands of years. If it was easy to bring peace to that region of the world, it would have been done already.
Mr. Vice President, you've expressed some concerns in the past about free speech in the United Kingdom and Europe more broadly. Do you bring any kind of a message to the Foreign Secretary today on that subject?
Well, I'd say I've raised concerns about free speech in the United States of America. I think the entire collective West, the transatlantic relationship, our NATO allies, certainly the United States under the Biden administration, got a little too comfortable with censoring rather than engaging with a diverse array of opinions. So that's been my view. Obviously, I've raised some criticism and concerns about our friends on this side of the Atlantic. But the thing that I'd say to the people of England or to anybody else, to David, is many of the things that I worry most about were happening in the United States from 2020 to 2024. I just don't want other countries to follow us down what I think was a very dark path under the Biden administration. So in the spirit of having a good conversation, and recognizing the Secretary has a lot of things to do, unless you want to say anything else. Okay. Thank you all so much. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Well, this is the start of a visit for the Vice President to the United Kingdom. He's staying with his family at Chevening tonight and indeed for further nights. This is a part work but also part family holiday visit to the United Kingdom for the... I think they are continuing to answer questions. Let's listen in.
He's either meeting or discussing these issues with President Trump on a weekly basis, and I am doing the same with Secretary of State Rubio or Vice President Vance. And the truth is, what we all want to see is a ceasefire. What we all want to see are the hostages come out. And we are hugely concerned by the humanitarian suffering that we're seeing in Gaza particularly. So it is bringing that to an end that we want to see. I am concerned about what is developing in Gaza at this time and the recent decision by the cabinet, and hugely concerned, as I think a lot of Israeli people are, about the impact particularly on the hostages, and we'll be able to discuss these issues in the hours ahead. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Has your friendship led to you all challenging each other on any number of issues? Have you learned anything from each other? We learned a lot. Absolutely.
Well, they're the public portion of the meeting, closing by the sounds of things. as these cameras are lifted out of the room, the meetings will obviously continue behind the scenes.
It is a 3-day visit between the two men who are behind the scenes, despite, you know, differing political opinions, are actually genuinely good friends because of their background. Interesting, the two subjects that we're talking. Can we go back?
I think we're still continuing. This is like one of these. This is like one of these Trump press conferences. Let's listen in.
We both have a joint concern about outcomes for working people. That is the truth of it.
Absolutely.
And we have also discussed issues like irregular and illegal migration and how we deal with those issues. So there are commonalities and then there are differences. And that is the joy of living in democracies like ours.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
See you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
For a fourth time, we seem to have the end of this, but let's just continue to look at these pictures in case they all go back down and sit down again. I don't think that's actually going to happen
What
this time.
seems to be happening is they are moving the camera around. But interesting, that question there seemed to be about immigration, which is obviously one huge difference, Tom, between the two countries. Trump has shut the southern border, stopped immigration, illegal immigration into that country, whereas we don't seem to have quite as robust approach to it, as some would say. That's
although, of course,
understatement.
the government would like to have the kind of figures and reductions that Donald Trump has seen, but obviously what Donald Trump has done in terms of deportations has been criticised as illegality, as not putting forward the same rights for those that have just arrived as American citizens or the same rights as people that live in the United States as American citizens. Now, Trump has been doing that and has been taking a lot of criticism. I'm not sure that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, with his background in human rights law, or indeed the Attorney General with his background in human rights law, would do the same sort of tough enforcement that would run up against international convention.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, you would have thought Vance and Lammy, coming from that same working-class background, would have a slightly less legalese way of addressing this issue. However, I'm not sure. There were so many questions there, and we don't know whether we'll be going back to that at the moment. They said they do seem to keep moving the camera around. But obviously, immigration is a big issue, and Vance also on freedom of speech. JD Vance has spoken often about freedom of speech in this country, mentioning in particular the chap, I think it was, silently praying outside of an abortion clinic, who was moved on, and JD Vance has criticised the level of freedom of speech we have in this country. Also, the rise of Islamism in this country as well. And saying that we are literally on the verge of becoming an Islamic state.
And yet, whilst JD Vance has stringent and strong things to say in speeches in public, it's also the case that he has been very diplomatic in private. It seems to be that that there is actually a lot of diplomacy going on, and JD Vance is not the sort of media caricature monster that has been spoken about so very often. It seems that when he is actually in the room with people, President Zelensky aside, when he's in the room with with David Lammy, as we're seeing now, actually there is a lot of diplomacy there. There is a lot of more mild-mannered meeting.
Yeah, actually, James Orr, the Cambridge academic, who is a good friend of JD Vance, says that Vance criticises our leadership, not because he hates us, but because he loves us. And moreover, he's genuinely a polite and articulate man, except in the presence of Zelensky.
Oh, James said that as well?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
Who could forget that excruciatingly painful meeting in the White House, where Zelensky was basically, I think they'd say, bullied by both Trump and JD Vance there.
But isn't it telling that JD Vance is bringing his family, his wife and his young children, over for a holiday in this country? I know that JD Vance, before he became Vice President, would visit the United Kingdom at least once or twice a year. Clearly, it's one of these things that we're seeing in the Trump administration. Donald Trump obviously has familial connections to the United Kingdom, particularly to Scotland. His mother, of course, was a Scottish citizen, born in Scotland. And Trump obviously owns property here too. Similarly, perhaps, JD Vance was feeling a little bit left out after Donald Trump's big grand invitations to grand scenes and estates. Of course, JD Vance is is getting in on the action.
So but quickly, before we move on to talking to Mark Littlewood, Director of Popular Conservatism, very interesting that this meeting is taking place in Kent, not too far from the Kent coast, where the small boats are landing. That would be a fly-on-the-wall conversation. Maybe they'll have that one over dinner tonight. OK.
Well, let's get the thoughts now of Mark Littlewood, Director of Popular Conservatism. Mark, of course, the US-UK relationship, very, very important. But interesting that this seems to have been a voluntary sort of part social, part business visit from the Vice President.
Yeah, I think that's rather to be welcomed, isn't it? I mean, it's worth pointing out, I know that Donald Trump, you know, definitely is a sort of Marmite politician, but we probably have the most Anglophile, pro-British US presidential administration of my lifetime, both with Trump and Vance, and we should make a great hay out of that. This is a great opportunity to reset the special relationship. I'm not wholly persuaded by what the Trump administration is doing on trade and tariffs, but nevertheless, us being out of the European Union has allowed us to negotiate a comparative advantage compared to them. The problem we've got, of course, which Dawn was just pointing out a few minutes ago, is that the ideological difference between the Trump administration and the Starmer administration is enormous. David Lammy and JD Vance there were doing the right protocol, the friendly thing of highlighting what they agreed on, but there are enormous differences. And I think the US administration has huge concerns about freedom of speech in the United Kingdom. And I, for one, as a Brit here, hope they use whatever power and leverage they've got to protect my freedom of speech. I feel it might be rather better protected by JD Vance and Donald Trump than it would be by Keir Starmer and his ministers. So I welcome that sort of intervention. But really, we're not going to be able to make the most of it if there are so many differences about freedom of speech, the way the economy works, and immigration, which you've highlighted as well. I mean, we should definitely be taking a leaf out of the Trump administration's book. We have basically handed them on a platter our Rwanda plan that we abandoned, and the Americans are now taking advantage of. So for all of the, I know a lot of people bristle about a lot of Donald Trump's statements, but I think we could do worse than take a few leaves and a few pages out of the Trump-Vance book. That would probably make Britain a much better place.
Do you think, Mark, that immigration is the biggest point of difference between the two countries at the moment? Or is it the attitude to the Gaza-Israel situation?
There's a whole plethora of differences, Dawn, I think, because each administration is approaching any problem that it confronts, be it immigration or Israel or crime and justice, from different ends of the ideological spectrum. So I think that makes there being, I mean, they can portray a common front by sitting in nice comfy chairs by a fireplace in Chevening. But the reality is that the foreign policy objectives, the economic objectives, and the ideological views of the two administrations are very, very divergent. I mean, that shouldn't be a problem. Friends can disagree. And I thought, actually, not often that I praise David Lammy, but I think he was highlighting that, you know, the nature of a democracy is you're not actually going to have the US administration and the UK administration always aligned. But I think we would get a better rate of return if we were better aligned. For all of his faults, I am more impressed by what Donald Trump has done in his early months returning to the White House than I am by what Keir Starmer and his administration have done in the year or so they've been in office here.
Well, Mark, we've just been given these pictures of the two politicians fishing together at Chevening a little earlier on today. That's JD Vance and David Lammy having a go with their fishing rods in the grounds of Chevening, the Grace and Favour home of the Foreign Secretary down in Kent. I suppose they're really emphasising that this is a laid-back, semi-working visit and putting ahead this sort of idea that these are two men who can get on.
Yes, I think that's probably right. I mean, these are quite cute pictures, aren't they? Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it looks like Vice President Vance is an awful lot more comfortable with a fishing rod than Foreign Secretary David Lammy. I doubt they'll go hunting and shooting later, right? That's probably the most they'll get towards blood sports. But I think actually we should have more diplomatic visits like this. I think that actually sort of rolling out the red carpet and having huge state banquets and following every protocol is actually a bit stiff. I'm quite encouraged that David Lammy and JD Vance are having a chat while they go fishing, or having a drink later, or going for a long country walk. That's actually a better way to meet people and have a conversation.
This is something that the United Kingdom can do that not many other countries in the world can do. not least because we did build magnificent things in the 1600s, when many other countries weren't really building anything to last much at all, not least the United States of America. I mean, JD Vance could go around in the most flashy cars and helicopters, but he can't sit in a 17th century mansion and enjoy the sort of gilded surrounds that provides. This is another comparative advantage for the United Kingdom.
You're right, we have a fantastic backdrop for all of these diplomatic visits, Tom, although I thought it was rather hilarious. David Lammy clearly hadn't been briefed entirely about Chevening when Vice President Vance asked, wow, this is a great room, what's the name of this room? I gather the name is the drawing room. Surely the room has a better name than that. So sometimes those beautiful backdrops actually need to be backed up with briefing. I think the people who are organising it a little bit better. But you're right, yes, we have. Because of our history, all of these great abilities to meet, entertain, get to know foreign dignitaries of all sorts. Let's put them to use. And I think this does look like a particularly good way of putting things to use.
Mark,
whether they'll really agree on anything other than how difficult it is to catch a fish in the Cotswolds at this time of year, I'm a bit sceptical about, but good luck to both of them.
The way David Lammy's holding that rod, I would doubt that would be the case. Mark, just briefly taking you back a couple of weeks now when Trump was over here, that some would say emasculating meeting in Turnberry in the golf course. Do you think that was actually Keir Starmer playing a MasterCard there because he was very, very yes, yes, President, no, President, three bags full, President? David Lammy doesn't have that level of diplomacy. Is there potential for him to put his foot in it?
Wherever David Lammy is concerned, I'm afraid my worry is he's always got a potential to put his foot in it. But the problem that the Foreign Secretary and the Prime Minister both have is obviously they need to be polite to the President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States and the US administration, by far and away our most important and valued allies on the planet. But the truth is that their own troops, their MPs, Labour Party activists, Labour Party members, the bulk of Labour Party voters are pretty hostile to the Trump administration and what it's doing. So they have to actually walk a pretty fine line. And that's why I think you hear from both Starmer and a few minutes ago from Lammy, they're inclined really to think twice before saying nothing. They don't really commit to being devout supporters of what Trump's going to do, but they can't cut him off at the knees. They've got a very difficult balancing act to juggle there. On the one hand, keeping
Mark,
their own...
Mark, unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you.
Mark,
we have to interrupt. Thank you so much. That's Mark Littlewood, Director of Popular Conservatism.
Yeah.
OK, well, thank you very much.
Absolutely. And I should say that, you know, we've got pictures of them fishing. We've had pictures of them in the drawing room. We'll probably get some more over the course of the weekend.
Well, they're there for 3 days. But thank you for watching. Good afternoon, Britain. Don't go anywhere, though, because the wonderful Martin is up next, who's got a cracking show. Martin, what you got coming up?
Hey, you guys. Yeah, on today's show, all eyes on Aldershot as an Asylum hotel protest is met with a counter-protest from Stand Up to Racism. We've now given the Labour Party, number 10, the local MP, every opportunity to tell those people to stay away. They won't. Why not? We'll be live from the ground. Plus, an astonishing story. An Englishman, Connor, so sick of illegal immigration, he went to France and bought a boat and is sailing to England himself. It's an incredible story, and we'll join him mid-channel on today's show. And in Bournemouth, 200 locals have got together to form a vigilante army in face of surging crime, rapes, murder, knifings in the town. Seaside town driven, of course, by Asylum hotels. An action-packed show. All eyes on Aldershot will be live for that protest. Let's go on the show 3 till 6. But first, here's your weather forecast.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a dry and bright day for most of us. There will be a lot of cloud around and there'll be some showery rain in the far north, mostly to the north of the central belt of Scotland because of these fronts toppling in over an area of high pressure which is building from the south. That's going to bring increasingly summery weather over the next few days. and increasingly high temperatures by early next week, especially across the south and the east of the UK. But for the time being, it's pleasant enough out there. Yes, a lot of cloud around, but some breaks in the clouds, some decent sunny spells coming through. It's breezier for northern areas, and certainly we've got strong winds in the far north and northwest with outbreaks of rain. That's going to make it feel cool, but warm enough in the sunshine elsewhere. Then heading into the evening, any cloud in the south tends to fade away, but we keep the cloud in the north with further showers across much of Scotland. Again, that strong breeze across the north and northwest of Scotland, and it's going to be fairly gusty for Northern Ireland as well as Northern England, but clear spells emerging. And for the southern half of the UK, lighter winds, still warm as we head into Friday evening.